baby in a razor head. I didn't try to fight. I didn't run to fight. Didn't try to fight. It's all I need right now. Didn't try to fight.
The mothership has landed. Hollywood has all the West. Pirate Radio. Welcome to the jungle.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the broken down, low rent, sleazy, double greasy Pirate Radio Nut Hut Studios, it's time for the very first ever Southern.
Attention.
CPR Street Gang, this is our fighting. Standing by, over. CPR Street Gang, this is our fighting. Standing by, over.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines,
Clocks run out. Time's up. Wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. Broken hearts, the smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
It's Aftermath FM. My name's Jimmy, and Into the Microcosm is on the air.
Let's imagine. If you glimpsed the future and were frightened by what you saw, what would you do with that information? You would go to who? Politicians? Captains of industry? And how would you convince them? With data? Facts? Good luck. The only facts they won't challenge are the ones that keep the wheels greased and the dollars rolling in. But what if there was a way of skipping the middleman and putting the critical news directly into everyone's head? The probability of widespread annihilation kept going up. The only way to stop it was to show it, to scare people straight. Because what reasonable human being wouldn't be galvanized by the potential destruction of everything they've ever known or loved? To save civilization, I would show its collapse. But how do you think this vision was received? How do you think people responded to the prospect of imminent doom? They gobbled it up like a chocolate eclair. They didn't fear their demise. They repackaged it. It can be enjoyed as video games, as TV shows, books, movies, the entire world, wholeheartedly embraced the apocalypse and sprinted towards it with gleeful abandon. Meanwhile, your Earth was crumbling all around you. You've got simultaneous epidemics of obesity and starvation. Explain that one. Bees and butterflies start to disappear. The glaciers melt. Algae blooms all around you. The coal mine canaries are dropping dead, and you won't take the hint. In every moment, there is the possibility of a better future, but you people won't believe it. And because you won't believe it, you won't do what is necessary to make it a reality. So you dwell on this terrible future, you resign yourselves to it. For one reason, because that future doesn't ask anything of you today. So, yes, we saw the iceberg, we warned the Titanic. But you all just steered for it anyway, full steam ahead. Why? Because you want to sink. You gave up.
In Times Square now, people this New Year's Eve was the final barrier. Submission. We took you up and we put you in the backseat. Submission. From year to year, we looked up for the venture. Submission.
Well, thanks for joining us. It's Into the Microcosm. Epic Journeyman's here, Rockin' Rio's here. We got a whole host of information to get into. We got more show than we have time.
Submission. Dominance. Submission. Dominance. Submission. Submission. Dominance. Submission. Dominance. Submission.
Epic Journeyman. Yeah, you there?
I am here.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, I had an interesting evening after the show last night. I ended up embarking off into the jungle.
Get
called
out.
back into work. It was like that scene from Jurassic Park, you know, which they filmed in Hawaii, you know, where you go out there and it's like raining and it's super jungle
Yeah.
leaves going across the front of the truck and everything. Got stuck in the mud. Had to go out there, it had stupid lugs you have to move on the front wheel to put the truck in 4-wheel drive, right? Had to get out there and do all that stuff. Put on the lights out there. I was expecting that T-Rex to come any second, man. Yeah.
You mean you don't have a truck that has 4-wheel drive where you just...
No, I don't know what that's all about, man. It looks cool until you actually get stuck in the
How
mud.
much money did they save by not just having that switch in the truck? Like
I know, right?
a couple $100.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's like,
yeah.
nah, fuck it. They don't need a switch. They'll get
Dude,
out.
and
but
the foliage was so dense, right? That you got to like open the door with all these branches and things and palm fronds and like
man.
old sugar cane stuff coming across the door. Then wade out and around in the mud around it to get to the other side, trying to trip and fall down and the T-Rex eat you. Yeah.
Did you
it was a
find
trip,
any?
man.
You didn't bump across any angry Samoans, did you?
No, and I didn't see the little guys, and I can't see their names. I can say them one time. The Menahunes. I can't see them.
Manahunis. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you didn't find any old shaman with a message for humanity while you were passing by, did you?
I was kind of expecting it actually, but no, I didn't see any.
Well, I hope that you didn't see any bats after what we were talking about last night.
No.
Because he missed the scenery, the native dancers, and the charming songs. But wait a minute, something's wrong. Hey, hey, now it's a mambo, mambo Italiano, a mambo Italiano, go Joe. You mixed up Siciliano, you calabrese, do the mambo like crazy, and a mambo don't want a tarantella, a mambo no more a mozzarella, a mambo Italiano, try an enchilada with a fish of bacalao, and hey gumba, I love how you
Hey, Goomba.
Hey,
What's happening, man?
not much.
Oh, man. Woo!
Hiding out from the stalkers, man.
I know. Well, it's good to see you, man. It's like I'm glad you made it home in one piece. Now, yeah, I mean, would you mind sharing a little bit of what's been going on? Because I think we could tie that into what we're going to be talking about tonight. Because you've been experiencing a little bit of I don't even know what to call it. I mean, why don't you tell everybody what's been going on? Now you drive. Well, let me fill people in. Rio drives every day from New York to New Jersey and back to go to work, and so he's been having some issues. And so Rock and Rio, what is it, like a 3-hour drive every day for you?
Yeah, it's about 3 hours total.
Mm-hmm. Total. So now on your way, so tell everybody what's been happening, man. So you've been on the road, you've been driving back and forth, and then the last couple of days you've been having a little bit of trouble, haven't you?
Well, not really trouble, just some like really bizarre occurrences. Monday night there was this truck driving slow in the left lane with his left-hand blinker on. So I went around him. And the next thing you know, the guy's blowing past me at like 95, still with his left-hand blinker on.
Mm-hmm.
And then he slows down again. And so I passed him again.
Mm-hmm.
And after I did that, now he's tailgating me at like 90, still with his blinker on for like 45 minutes. This guy's driving with his blinker on. And I thought to myself, geez, something's wrong with that guy. Didn't really think much of it. Got off the exit. And
so let me ask you this: when you got off the exit, was it going through your mind this guy's gonna follow you off the freeway? Like were you looking in your rear?
It's kind of it's a big interchange where I get off, so there's like a 50-50 chance that people getting off there anyway.
Well, so like you didn't like give the guy a mug or anything, or flip him the bird or anything like this. You just kind of minding your own business, but all of a sudden, this guy's like, driving sporadic. So when you were telling me, you told me about...
I mean, there's a lot of weird people that drive down the road. But...
When you were telling me the story, I thought that was the end of the story, and then I piped in with some shit, which sounds to me like the dude is stoned, because cops know if your blinker's on for a long time, that you're high. You've been smoking weed, and they'll pull your ass over. So, I mean, it's a known thing, but then it wasn't the end of the story, was it?
No, it definitely was not. So I got off and went on my merry way home and didn't see the guy. So I just assumed he went the other way. And the next night, there's another guy that's driving not particularly bad or weird like the guy the night before.
Yeah.
But he's driving with his left-hand blinker on for like 45 minutes. All the way up 17, all the way up the thruway. I'm going,
so
what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? And like I noticed it because, the guy the night before, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, 2 nights in a row, this is pretty freaky. But okay, it must be a new thing, like driving with your blinker on.
Mm-hmm. And see, then I also reiterated there. See, I think there's a lot of people smoking weed in New Jersey, is what I said. But that still wasn't the end of the story, was it?
No, so nothing happened Wednesday. Wednesday was a fairly uneventful ride home. But tonight on the way home, there's another dude with his left-hand blinker on. And you know, driving a little strangely. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe everybody is, just
Smoking
stoned
weed in Jersey.
and
Is weed legal?
whatever. But
Is weed? Can you
you know,
buy weed in Jersey?
yeah, weed's legal in New Jersey
Okay, well
now.
there you go, man. There's a lot of stoned people, but see when you got to the three strikes and you're
Three out of 4 nights this week.
no, three strikes and you're out, man. The three strikes and you're out. That's when I call in the Epic Journeyman and I say, Epic Journeyman, this sounds a little.
I'm being stalked by the turn signal brigade, man.
Well, I sounds a little like gang stalking to me. You know, it sounds.
Well, it is the left-hand turn gang.
Well, I'm just saying, man. When you got guys and you go to the Walmart and there's a guy in aisle 3 and he's got dark sunglasses on, and then you go over to the automotive department and there's another dude in there, same exact sunglasses, looking at you. It's like looking at the can of oil and looking over at you, and looking at the can of oil and looking over at you. You know, now you're thinking to yourself, man, this is the second dude I've seen tonight with those same sunglasses on in the store. What the fuck's going on around here? And then you go out to the farmer's market and you go over to the stand to buy yourself something to eat. And the dude behind the counter's got them same glasses on, man. You know, then you're driving home and you look over and the guy in the car next to you's got those glasses on, he's shooting you look. You know, once you notice 4 or 5 of these dudes doing that, at that point you start to get stressed out, man. You know what I mean? Especially if you're somebody who consumes a lot of alternative information because you become aware of certain activities. And so then you can, a lot of times what happens is people transpose these things that happen into these things that they've become aware of and make it mean something to themselves. In other words, I remember, we've been around the alternative media a really long time. How many times have you guys heard some guy with an internet issue say that it was trying to keep they were trying to keep him from getting the word out?
Getting information out, definitely. All the time.
Yeah, right. So, there's
like a meme.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But there was all these different things that happened to you, and in result, Epic Journeyman. Now, there's a whole thing going on that I don't think a lot of people even are aware of, and we've heard of gang stalking, and of course we automatically and immediately think it has something to do with some sort of lettered agency or some reason that they're doing it to you for whatever reason, but really, and we brought this up before on the show, there's something going on that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, and it's a type of game that's being played across the plane here now. And this is this is almost like a virtual LARP that translates into physical reality in a way, because it's a game, right? So explain a little bit about this game, Epic Journeyman, that people don't know about, man. Because I think, when you're experiencing stuff like Rio's seeing here, this may be part of the game. In other words, I'm just saying, if Rio was on somebody's game board, they were in New York, they knew Rio, however they got a hold of Rio, and they just decide they want to play a game with Rio, and then, to get him pissed off, to see if they could get him to throw up the bird or show somebody his 9mm. Then they get a point. You know what I mean? They get a couple points. Why don't you explain the game, man?
Yeah, no, this is totally real, and people have known about it, but it's been kind of on the down low, I'd say. I won't say kind of on the down low. It's really on the down low, because they don't want to catch it on, right? They don't want to catch it on. Not only that, but people who are playing it, they don't want to. It works both sides, right? The people who are playing it they don't want people to know about it, because what makes it cool is the fact that people don't know about it. The people who are aware that's there, they see how dangerous it can become. They don't want more people to do it, so that they keep their mouth shut too. So it's called an alternative reality game. We know some. We know some of those. We see some of those all the time. And there are some famous ones that work. They work many times in the past, in the 90s, excuse me, when they first started coming out. They used them to promote movies. They would have like a company in ARG. There's the Spielberg movie, Artificial Intelligence had one. I don't have my references in front of me, but I'm just going to tell you what I know off the top of my head.
Yeah, just go ahead.
For example, there's things like that, right? And so the movie, what's the big giant robots had a big one, I can't think of the name, Pacific Rim, right? There's a bunch of them out there, right? Some more well known than others. And then of course people think about LARPs and it's like a LARP. Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is, but it's more like taking D&D, the old Dungeons and Dragons game, where the dungeon master lays out a scenario and puts people in they have to go play through his scenario.
So what
Except
happens
instead of rolling dice, you're trying to get people, you're trying to get reactions out of people, and document those reactions.
Mm-hmm. So
let's really took off on the internet.
Let's set the stage then. So basically, what people do is they set up a private conference call room someplace. Somehow they got a room set up.
I could give you some history on this.
Okay.
They used to do it. There'd be people who just knew each other in their group individually, of course. But once the internet came out, they used game chat rooms.
Right.
Specifically, BattleNet from Blizzard. And games where you don't really have to play, like Hearthstone and things like that. They get together in there and they can all talk to each other, and it's kind of on the down low, right? And that's from that same lobby with them. There's nobody listening, so it's like your own private chat room where you have voice comms, right? And so they'd lay out these rules, and then they used Reddit specifically. And how I discovered they were doing this personally was we were getting trolled horribly sometimes, ridiculous with these they call them troll brigades on the subreddit Mandela Effect. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And so I traced them back to BattleNet, but then I found their scoreboards. They'd open these subreddits on Reddit and used our subreddit as a sandbox to play their game in. So in other words, if they got banned in so many moves, that was worth so many points, right? If they got us to cuss at them, that's worth so many points, right? And it only ran for, let's say, a couple weeks or a couple days, and then they shut down the subreddit that was a scoreboard. But now it's on Discord.
So let's
and they use the real world, and they've been using the real world, but now it's more common.
Let's paint a picture though. So there's lots of games where you're in a military situation and you're some sort of an operator in a military situation. You're in a group situation with other people, and you talk to each other through the headsets, and you guys act as though you're together in a war against another group of people who are also on headsets. So now imagine that scenario. Now imagine a chat room, just an innocent chat room somewhere, and there's a conference call set up someplace, and there's 5 or 6 guys in there, and they're all in a chat room someplace, making comments or whatever, trying to trigger. They'll call out a certain person in the chat room's name. They'll say, "Hey, see if you can get this guy to, whatever, stand on his head and, quack like a duck." And whoever can get the guy to stand on his head and quack like a duck, they get 100 points.
Which could be money, right? So that's the whole thing. Like they pull in, like it's like a parlay card, trying to win that game, right? And get the pooled money too. So there's a financial incentive a lot of times. And the thing about it is, like, this is really going on. People who don't know, and most people don't, you really need to start paying attention to this, because I'm going to say those young whippersnappers is not the young whippersnappers. It's people, it's them too, right? But it's the people who have some tech savvy. So if you're sitting there and you have your phone in your pocket with your AirPods in your ear, right, which have microphones you can talk on, you're basically that commando, right? You're playing the game. You have Discord on your phone. You're talking to the people you're working with, right? You're playing the game with, rather. It's kind of like working. Right. And then you're saying, okay, we're going to get Jimmy to flip us a bird over at the Safeway store. What do we got? The first person does it gets, wins, right? And that particular win is worth $100. So you do anything you want within the reason, basically you set some kind of rules. You can't, go kick Jimmy in the shins or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But and then you have like that dungeon master in a game that they're playing D&D back in the day. All the rules are outlined. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. It could be super complex. It could be things like following a guy and putting your left blinker on and see if that guy stops and gets out of his car. That's worth 200 points. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, and this ties exactly in with what we're going to be talking about here on the other side of the break, because this same type of activity from an organic perspective, it's actually people doing it. Once it's turned into something where people are doing it, then it can be used to train AI.
100% it can.
Yeah, and so what you look at is when we're going to have Peter Diamandis on here a little bit later in a lecture that he gave, talking about a robot and how it learns how to jump and roll and act like a ballet dancer. And he brings up the point is that when that robot learns something, it's not just that robot that learns it, that every robot then knows how to do it. At the moment that that robot learns how to jump and do a somersault and land on its feet, everybody else doesn't have to learn it now too. The knowledge goes out to every other robot at that point, and every robot now can jump and do a somersault. So we're going to be jumping with the robots and doing somersaults on the other side of the break. This is In the Microcosm. We're going to be talking about some superior technology that's coming out. We're going to be tipping into DARPA's bag of tricks. We're going to be talking, like I said, Diamandis, and then we have G.R. Dardano, Dr. Doom himself. What was that? You going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna. Oh.
Go ahead. Hang on.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna see next week when driving home if there's more blinkers. So it'll be interesting now that I've noticed for 3 nights out of 4.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting. Maybe it is a game.
You
right?
get one of those stars.
I mean, I didn't feel like I was in danger, like anybody was actually out to hurt me or anything. I just thought it was really weird.
Well, why don't you get yourself one of them Starsky and Hutch, like red lights that you pull out of your glove compartment and turn on the top of your car?
Awesome idea.
Just pull that fucker over.
That would be fun.
Give me all your weed, boy. It's In the Microcosm. We'll be right back. It's Aftermath FM in stereo.
Headed for the skies, but you were young and bold, and baby, didn't that change with a wink of your eye? Now no one's talking about those crazy days gone by. No one talks about the times you cried. A little dreamer. Likely to succeed. I had to tell them, baby, you were all
Take a journey into the real underworld of our governing structures. Everything you wanted to know about power, evil, magic, murder, ritual, and sacrifice, as practiced by the ruling groups on this planet. The Light of Darkness, a warrior's tale for our time, as told by a Navy SEAL, CIA contractor, and initiate of Palo Mayombe, one of the oldest and most precise blood magic systems on the planet. Available exclusively on Amazon, in Kindle and paperback. Get your copy today.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
It's Aftermath FM. Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, right here, immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. You'll find us. You never know what we're going to get up into. Unscripted, the alternative to the alternative, the underground, the after party. Monday through Friday. That's right. All right, we're going to get into it.
Around, anything can happen, and usually does. Be nice.
Epic Journeyman, is that you over there in the smoke?
I'm over
raising
here,
hell on Aftermath FM. The smoke and the sulfur from hell is clouding the green room as we speak. Oh, wait a minute. That's not the smoke from hell. That was just me taking a bong hit. Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, right here. Aftermath FM. The counterculture knows which show to come to on the late night style. It's not your granddaddy's late night, is it, Epic Journeyman?
No, it's not.
Because your
It's
granddaddy...
not granddaddy's world anymore, is it?
No, it's not.
There's a lot of things going on that are unimaginable to people even 20 years ago.
Exactamundo. And I mean, Rock and Rio, technologically, I mean, we're on and into a new realm of experience, aren't we? I mean, we're on the cusp of the Great Reset, aren't we? We're gonna
that and the technology rising.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna shed our pupus and turn into butterflies, and fly away into the new utopia with our new QR codes and our.
We will be one with the Matrix.
Yeah, we'll just be one more like 1 and 0 pattern to the blockchain. Called Earth. We'll be all tied down, the blockchain. Makes me think blockchain. It makes me think of one of those giant cement blocks with the little...
Take away.
So is that Earth we're tied down to, is that Earth 1 or Earth 2?
Earth 2 for sure.
Earth 2.
Because once you're locked in into the new paradigm, you won't want to come out. Why come out? I mean, let's just be real. If you can get up in there and you can get inside the VR helmet and you can live the life that you could never live in real life because you're just making $15 an hour, but you can step off into your VR helmet and be living in a fat lair with 20-foot ceilings and 10-foot fireplaces, and you're kicking back with all these cool people that you know from the internet, but you never met in real life. But now they materialize in your sweet pad there in the virtual reality. It's like all your friends that you never could meet anymore. You can't go anywhere, can't fly anywhere, because that hurts the earth. So
Yeah, but the old Zook has got you covered.
He's got your back, man. He's got your back, and
because Satan is in
earn
the
some
code,
Zuck
man.
bucks. Yeah.
He's got your back, and Zuck loves that tramp stamp, especially if it's Nixon on your back. Roger Stone has a Nixon tattooed on his back.
Does he really?
He does, man. Isn't that weird? He's got Nixon's face.
Trippiest thing, man. He's a known swinger too. So I just can't. That's what always bothered me about the whole thing.
I
A
know,
lot of
it
things bothered
bothers
me
me.
about the creepy Roger Stone.
They
with his
did
weird top
call
hats and
Nick.
stuff.
They did call Nixon Tricky Dick, right?
Yeah,
They sure did.
Well, it's just weird because no one's gonna see that on your back unless they looking at your back for some reason. So it just makes me feel weird, man. It makes me feel uncomfortable about that tattoo. So I wish I didn't know about it, but
What is he saying?
I
Don't
know.
fuck with Nixon, man.
Yeah, what's the message? It's like people that get their ink or whatever.
I think the message is, I am not a crook.
Maybe. Or who knows? All right, listen. Enough. Enough is enough, is what my grandma used to say. Enough is enough. Now, go play outside. Okay, so listen. Let's start where it starts, Epic Journeyman. Now, I didn't know about this guy that you brought to the table just right before the show. So tell me a little bit about him, and then I will get into his presentation here, a couple minutes of presentation. But let's talk a little bit about him, because he ties into exactly some of the DARPA technology and some of this other DiGiordano material, where he blue skies the possibility for the military-industrial complex on a regular basis. So his speeches are scary and precise. But before we get there, let's lay a little bit of foundation as though we're building a case. So my first witness I want to bring to the stand is Epic Journeyman. Epic Journeyman, are you that?
Your Honor, I know the defendant.
Okay.
I read his work back in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
His name is Hugo de Garis.
Okay.
Might be de Garis.
Uh-huh.
He's an Australian, and he got really into, like, a lot of things spawned from science fiction. Like a lot of things we think of now are cyberpunk or from Philip K. Dick and all those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things were being, heavily circulated in the 60s and 70s, cyberpunk, all this kind of stuff. And then the scientists grew up reading that stuff, and they looked at it and said, you know what? This is real, because they read Norbert Wiener's 1948 book on cybernetics, and they said, this is something that's achievable.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the Stanford AI Lab started their artificial intelligence, their AI in 1962, and God knows where it's at now. Not just there, but everywhere else. Like things like AlphaGo and whatnot, AlphaZero now, and beyond. So Hugo de Garis started writing in the 90s about these genetic algorithms. He called them genetic algorithms that made artificial neural networks, and how these things are going to merge with human beings in a way that Ray Kurzweil predicted in his talks about singularity, later, to where it's going to enhance and make the human mind, magnify by so many more times than what it's currently capable of by merging with AI. It will no longer be a normal human, recognizable as a human, essentially. And so he theorized way back then, back in the 90s, and wrote several books on it, that what would happen would be that we would diverge into different races, basically based on our political philosophy and our psychological philosophy that dealt with this. So you'd have the Terrans, he called them, the people who wanted to stay human. That's like probably you and me, and a lot of listeners. I don't want this stuff to merge with my mind and be part of it and merge with me, right? It's one thing to visit, but you want to be able to leave. Right? Well, in this case, we wouldn't leave. So the other ones were the cosmists, who embraced it completely and just left the Earth. They get so advanced through AI and stuff, they just leave the Earth. These Artilects, right? And so basically what happens is there ends up being a war, an inevitable war between the people who are enhanced, right, and the people who try to remain the same.
All right, well,
that's the premise.
Let me run this clip.
I think, like I wrote my book, The Artillect War, in '98. So that was, what, 22 years ago. So what I've noticed over the past 10 years is it's that whole issue of species dominance. Could machines become a lot more intelligent than human beings and hence potentially become a real threat to our very species' survival? 10 years ago, it was still pretty fringy, but now, it's pretty well mainstream. It's part of public consciousness. Now, it hasn't yet become political. People aren't rioting in the streets or burning down brain-building companies or assassinating brain architects or killing CEOs of brain-building companies. It hasn't reached that stage yet, but it's well along that route. So that's probably the thing I noticed the most over the past 10 years. Yeah, so there's a much greater level of awareness. At least politicians are starting to be conscious that there's a potential problem here. I still feel that most people haven't yet caught on to the idea that this is going to be the political issue of the century, as important as that, and then it'll become violent. So I still feel frustrated. I still feel I'm ahead of my time. Like 22 years ago, I was a nutcase, right? So the so-called intellectual crying in the wilderness. But now, well, it's halfway, put it that way. But we still haven't yet got to the political stage. And I don't see that coming until, the IQ gap, human level intelligence, machine level intelligence. I don't see the issue really heating up until that gap seriously starts closing. Then you'll get the violence. And then people will start saying, oh, that crazy guy who died recently, that's me, was actually right, but we're not there yet. I think the major factor in the...
So he says we're not there yet. And so that was from May 8th, 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, Hugo de Garis. And so there it is, Epic Journeyman, Rock and Rio, ladies and gentlemen. I would say that, I think the people that we should, definitely people that I pay attention to are futurists. Because the sky's the limit as far as what they can imagine and what can be done and the power that's behind an idea in modern times. The amount of power that you could put to an idea at any given moment when it just comes to you. And especially if you're in a position where you can command these huge pools of computing power across the planet, and you can focus that laser beam on any single problem across the world. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why Epic Journeyman and Rock and Rio, they built that sentient world simulation, eh?
Right. And they didn't, when they made that back in 2007, I mean, cellular technology come along. There was ways to GPS track people and stuff like that and kind of get a feel for their movements. Mm-hmm. But they had no idea. Well, they had an idea. But they didn't know it was developed at Purdue before the military took it over. But they didn't know it gets to the level it is now with our smartphones that are smarter than people who carry them these days. And the thing is that is the neural network. Every one of those phones is a node in the neural network. Every one, collecting data. It's a brain cell in a massive brain. And the thing is, it's going to get more and more enhanced, and it's never going to forget what it learns. And yeah, we're in a bind here shortly. What Hugo was mentioning there is not far off at all.
No, and the thing about it is too is that when you don't pay, you're not paying attention to this. You're doing your job every day. You're going back and forth to work. I mean, you're like Rio. You're driving 3 hours. You don't have time to sit there and monitor every single thing that's going on across the plane. That's going on in AI and in research and quantum computing and all these things that go on. It's impossible for the regular person to just keep track of it all, let alone even understand it. Some people can't even conceive of the level of where we are. Here, this guy's a scary dude, man. And I mean, there's something called the European Human Brain Project. We've talked about it before on the show. But this guy is James Giordano. Okay, Dr. James Giordano, and he's an advisor to the Pentagon. And, well, here, take a listen to this here.
By someone telling me that someone in the government implanted these things in their brain without them knowing. I'm not kidding.
Now you may say, this doesn't concern me, or my children, or my community. But this is less and less true.
Once we let the proverbial cat out of the bag, well, at that point, now we let loose science and technology in the broader public sphere. And this then gets us into the actually derivative social issues.
We've advised the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon, which sounds very important.
The individuals, the groups, the politics, and the societies that have the most sophisticated tools and perhaps weapons win. Out of disclosure, some of the work that I'm doing here today is funded by the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories. I'm also funded by the European Union Human Brain Project, specifically the Sub-Project 12, where I'm a task leader for dual-use brain science.
May not be aware of a sentient simulation of our world in real time. No, this is not a video game, folks, but for those who think it is, I have a question. Are you ready, player one?
What has gone from the drawing board to the reality is this: the use of neural interfacing and physiological interfacing through the idea of remote-controlled small-scale systems to create a nanoswarm of biopenetrable materials that you cannot see, that can penetrate all but the most robust biochemical filters, that are able to integrate themselves through a variety of membranes, mucous membranes, and wherever, mouth, nose, ears, eyes, and they can be done in such a level that their presence is almost impossible to detect, and as such, the attribution becomes exceedingly difficult to demonstrate. The idea here is to put minimal-sized electrodes in a network within a brain through only minimal intervention to be able to read and write into the brain function in real time, remotely.
I discovered the 8 immortal kings.
So let's read and write into the brain in real time, remotely. Now, is he blue skying it? Is he blue skying? I don't know. I don't know if he's blue skying it, because he's talking about potentialities, and he's talking about stuff that does exist. He's talking about patents that are out there. He's talking about integration, and he's talking about he's selling this to the military-industrial complex. So he is a salesman. Is he blue skying, Epic Journeyman?
Well, there is such thing as smart dust. That's true. That's a real thing, right? There is such thing as nanomachines. Those are real things. But the way they integrate together and form is not publicly defined. I'm sure that they're out there in ways that DARPA's developing we don't know about yet, that are actual and functional. You know what I mean? In a way that he's trying to portray it. But I don't know that it's at a large scale level like that yet. Is potential there? Certainly it's there.
How could we honestly know, though? Because this is the kind of thing that goes on, and then we don't know about it until it's already been around and in us and everywhere. And they go, oh well, we've been using it for a while now, huh, Rio? It's like it's like a pilot program, Hey, sorry about that, Hey, you're filled with nano dust, but oh, hey, don't worry about it.
Well, isn't that kind of how they did the whole chemtrail thing, right? For years and years, we're looking up at the sky, looking at the clouds, going, "Those things ain't right, man." They're, everybody's calling them chemtrails, and it was always denied and denied and denied. And then they do this interview with this one guy from MIT, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you mean the geoengineering? We've been doing that for decades."
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a listen to this.
We are closer than ever to creating technology which can merge with human biology in order to access the cloud in real time. Confused? Well, RT's Rachel Blevins is here and has all the details.
Can you imagine technology that is so advanced it could provide you with instant access to the world's knowledge and artificial intelligence as soon as you think of a specific topic? According to a group of scientists, neural nanorobotics may be developed to enable a safe, secure, instantaneous, real-time interface between the human brain and both biological and non-biological computing systems. This level of technology could include brain-to-brain interfaces, brain-to-computer interfaces, and specifically brain-to-cloud interfaces. Technology linking the brain to the cloud could drastically alter the state of communications between humans and machines. So in order for this to become possible, the study noted that data transfer between living human brains and the cloud would likely require the use of supercomputers with artificial intelligence algorithms. While they say that there are supercomputers with processing speeds fast enough to handle the necessary volumes of data right now, they still have to create tiny devices that would be embedded deep in the brain.
I can create small robotic units, controllable robotic units at the nanoscale, and that these too can be aerosolized. The idea here is to put minimal-sized electrodes in a network within a brain through only minimal intervention to be able to read and write into the brain function in real time, remotely.
The senior author of the study noted that once inside the brain, the devices would then wirelessly transmit encoded information to and from a cloud-based supercomputer network for real-time brain state monitoring and data extraction. Such a breakthrough in technology has the power to transform communications, education, work, and the world as we know it. But with the requirement of tiny devices being inserted into your brain in order to access the cloud, it remains to be seen just how many people will be willing to participate.
Well, brain networks with 3 people communicating to each other while their thoughts have been created. What can we extrapolate from some of this information that is literally 5 years old? 5 years old, even 5 years down the line, at the level and speed at which we are moving, Epic Journeyman, Moore's law no longer translates. Technology is moving faster and faster. You'd almost say it's moving exponentially, wouldn't you say, at this point? Because at the point that we have the power to compute at the level that we do, our ability to move further in a shorter period of time seems to be at hand, wouldn't you say?
I would say, and there's an interesting fact that people forget. Not always. They didn't forget that long ago, but they forget more today. No pun intended. Talk about Moore's law. Drum beat there.
Right.
Drum roll. But you know, the thing is that back in the 50s and 60s, they were developing this stuff based on the work of Norbert Wiener and Jose Delgado. They were doing this, and it was getting financed through dark projects and dark money from the CIA and other places. And they went off in one direction, and by the 60s and 70s, they had crazy supercomputers and things like that they were using, right? And Cray came on probably actually a little later, but the point being that we're talking 70s even then, in 80s. So the thing is, this was all going along without anybody really knowing about it in the public eye. But because we know about the things going on with Google and Amazon with artificial intelligence today, people assume that they're so much farther ahead maybe than even DARPA and the military are. But the DARPA and the military projects have a 40-year head start. They have a 40-year head start. They're a lot farther ahead. They are. There's no question about that. The fact that we don't know about it just means that it's in a project somewhere that we're unaware of due to this classification. But people say, well, you can't hide things like that anymore. That's not true. Dude, they developed the atomic bomb. They had a town with 20,000 people in it, right? This is a total secret town to develop the atom bomb, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, this kind of thing absolutely could be happening right under our noses.
And I don't know if people are aware of this, but I mean, you know, DARPA's got a whole podcast series. They've got their own podcasts. They've got all these people that just step out and just talk about all this stuff that's going on. You know, and it's the same type of thing where you hear people coming out of MIT and, you know, talking about stuff, what the future is going to look like, this and that. You know, these people are all coming from a place of knowledge, you know. These people are coming from a place that's, you know, it can light the way to what we're going to perceive to be our new resettable future. And that's the thing about everything being on the internet and you being in the internet, is everything is constantly, you can reset it. There's no physical representation. There's not like a book that you write and there it is and all the information's there and you were quoted as saying this on such and such a day. you can pull that book out anytime off the shelf and look at it, and there it is. But if it's on the internet and it's not on the shelf, well, it can be changed anytime, can it? Isn't that the whole job of isn't that the whole job at the Ministry of Information, is to change history to go along with whatever the party line is today? You know?
Funny you should mention that, because I was just looking up the term nanite war or nanite infection. And on the internet, which has only been around since the 90s, there's no reference to it that doesn't start before the 2000s, and maybe, well, specifically 2000 with the game Deus Ex, and some other things along the way since, mostly really emerging like 2016, right? And you're like, well, it must be a relatively new thing. You know how Google is now. You have to scroll farther down to find what you're really looking for, unless you're really super specific, but that's a pretty obvious thing. Nanite war, nanite particle, nanite weapon, things like that, right? But here the movie Zardoz in 1974 was based on that very premise. Those people couldn't die because the nanites kept them alive, linked to their AI. Right? I mean, it was named Tabernacle, ironically, this pyramid, this silver pyramid in the center of their town square. Well, Borman wrote that, just this director dude, right, on his own in 1974, because he had knowledge that this was going on back in 1974, before the internet, right? Before this stuff was out there. So these things existed and were thought about in high-level conversations people were having in academia long before.
Yep.
They do tell us that the actual technology is 50 years ahead of what's in the public, so that would kind of fit right into that timeline.
Well, don't you think that back then when they said it was 50 years ahead, and let's say it was 50 years ahead, and at the point that it was 50 years ahead, wouldn't it move, like I was saying earlier, wouldn't it move sort of exponentially? Because at the point then it was 50 years ahead. It was 50 years ahead then, but now it got so good that it was 100 years ahead. And then because it was 100 years ahead, it was so good that now it's 200. You see what I mean? Like it keeps,
if Moore's law is true, you're absolutely right. It's 1,000 years ahead by now.
It has to be.
That's true. It has to be.
So there actually literally could be cities floating in the sky like you've seen materialize over China, in the sense that if you got to a point where you could oppose the magnetic field of the Earth, then you may be able to support some sort of a platform type thing. You see what I mean? So at the point that you realize that it's just getting further and further beyond people's ability to even comprehend. So how could there ever be anybody up in Congress or in the Senate or a president or anybody that can even comprehend what is possible at this point to regulate it or to sit over the top of it? It's gone beyond that point. When you guys say there's no point, there's no possibility of regulating it now, because it's literally wormed its way into every aspect of our lives. AI is everywhere, and there is no escaping it at this point. Would you not agree with me, you guys? Or, and if you don't, please let me know if I'm wrong.
No, I totally agree. I mean, they could be so far ahead of where we are. I just think back to, even your parents or your grandparents. If you had handed them, an iPhone in 1920 or 1930, they would have had no idea that was even a possibility at that point. And now it's just take it for granted. Everybody's got one. It's just the thing.
Well, aren't the brains
just there?
Aren't the brains of our children just like we were talking about the technology? In other words, you used to have to go through a whole lifetime to get to a level of experiencing enough stuff to come to some sort of a wisdom. But children that are born today or have been born in the last decade, they can experience all this stuff off the internet that you used to have to live a life to go out and have these experiences. But you can literally call up any experience you want on the internet and it'll be there for you. So when you think about this look on this couple generations' faces, there's a certain look on the young people's faces, and it's because they look older than they are. They just have this sort of like 1,000-yard stare to them at some point. You know what I mean? Yeah, you hear about the 1,000-yard stare. It's like the 1,000-yard stare because, I mean, literally, you think about all the experiences that you would have. For example, let's say you're 18 years old, and from the time you were, say, 12 till the time you're 18, and then now even beyond, you've been playing first-person shooter video games. Like, how many people have you killed in video games by that point? In other words, how many times have you, like, chopped heads off and done all this in these video games?
Thousands. I mean, I've probably killed thousands of video game people.
Yeah, no comment for me. You know, and the thing is, like, think about it. We know that the mind doesn't make the differentiation supposedly between what's experienced that way in real life. Not the whole brain, but part of the brain doesn't. Right? Part of the brain. You know, your whole consciousness doesn't, but part of your brain doesn't. So it's like a memory. It's stored like a memory. And the thing is, like, so we're talking about how when people split off with this secret knowledge, I mean, literally secret knowledge. Oak Ridge, the city that developed the atomic bomb, was in Tennessee with thousands of people in there. Nobody knew about it until the bomb was done, right? So it was, in a sense, the first breakaway civilization with this not first, but the first in America. Now think about it in the context of that same kind of secret knowledge, this classified knowledge being developed in cybernetics and in AI, right? To where in nanotechnology, to where these groups who are keeping it on a down low, keeping it secret, or working in secret, and Moore's law kicks in. And they can't share it with people, not only because it's classified, but because who's going to understand it in 1965 when they're already 40 years past that to our technology almost today, right? Who's going to understand it? So they keep developing. They have this secret city, just like Oak Ridge somewhere. And next thing you know, you really do have a breakaway civilization. And that's the whole concept that Hugo was mentioning in his talk there, is that these cosmists and artilects will develop separate from the Terrans because they're first of all, they can't even relate to each other at a certain point. The civilization is so much more advanced in that sense. But also what you're talking about, the information overload, cannot help but affect those people's minds.
I think children are getting more and more advanced at a younger age too, is what I was trying to say earlier with the if you look at the growth or the brain of the people that are on the planet. And like I said, I mean, you can call up any experience you want. I mean, right now you don't actually experience it, but I mean, if you want to learn how to drive a truck, there's a truck driving video on YouTube. And I'm not saying that, that's what people are looking at. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. I mean, if you spent 5 years of your young life on the internet, imagine how much you could learn then in that moment. I'm just saying it's negative in the sense that everything is available all at once to anybody who wants to search it. But this is also good because at the same time, this makes a learning path for people that didn't have it before, to have access to information, to allow them to become part of the think tank that goes on in the world to solve the problems of the world. You know what I mean? So it what it does is it takes away where you went to school as the only method of you being able to progress in the world as a thinker or a creative being or a scientist or whatever it is. All the things that used to hold you back that were based on where you went to school are now available to you to learn at your will. So,
right, the concept of a galactic library almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great equalizer because ideally information all being equal to everybody is a great idea. But there's also a problem with it. If it's equal access to everyone and they can, approximately grow at the same rate, there becomes an issue with content, right? Where there's only so much content, where knowledge is only able to be learned to a certain point. And that's where apathy comes in. It's like you've seen every movie at the video store. There's nothing left for you to go want to rent anymore.
Here's the thing.
Right?
Well, it's kind of like the Akashic record for the new generation, isn't it?
It is. And here's the thing too. This is the ultimate thing about this idea, is that imagine everything and all the information is available to you right now on the internet. But someone is in control of what part of that information you're going to be able to see. Somebody is sitting over the top of the information, and they don't want you to see this over here, but they want you to see this over there because their customers paying them to make you see that stuff over there. So this stuff over here don't exist because this guy's he's not paying the juice to the Godfather. See, this guy, he gets no play, but this guy over here, he's a customer. Well, there's his information, bold and ready for you to buy. Whatever it is, whether it's tires for your car or a political ideology, or if you're looking for information that goes against whatever the common storyline of the pop culture, propagation machine is, the behavior modification complex wants you to jump left, you better jump left. I'm running behind you guys. I'll be right back. It's Aftermath FM. It's into the microcosm. It's Rockin' Rio over there, the epic journeyman. Mine's Jimmy. We'll be right back.
First we'll pick Priscilla up, and then we'll stop for Jane. And Mary Ellen needs a ride. We're going by her place. We're going to a party. Our friends will all be there. I got the directions. It's across the river somewhere. We're in the top floor, bottom buzzer. Top floor, bottom buzzer. Top floor, bottom buzzer. The middle won't work. Ring.
It's Aftermath FM.
On June 1st, 1996, John and Joyce Edmonds purchased a ranch in Rainbow Valley, Arizona. What has ensued for the past 2+ decades defies all accepted understanding of our reality. Portals, aliens, abductions, incursions, and life-threatening confrontations. Stardust Ranch has become one of the most compelling paranormal stories of the last quarter century, studied by multiple agencies, public and private, and featured on countless documentaries, including Ghost Hunters. Stardust Ranch remains one of the most compelling mysteries of our time. Get your copy of Stardust Ranch, The Incredible True Story, available exclusively on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
People say I'm no good and crazy as a loon, 'cause I get stoned in the morning and I get drunk in the afternoon. Kinda like my old blue tick hound, I like to lay around in the shade. And I ain't got no money, but I damn sure got it made, 'cause I ain't asking nobody for nothing.
Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, right here. This is the Microcosm. My name's Jimmy. That's Rock Rio over there. It's Epic German over there. That's right.
Preacher man talking on TV, putting down the rock and roll. Wants me to send a donation, cause he's worried about my soul. He said, Jesus.
Trajectory here, right? Over a decade of work in this space. And what I'm going to do next, I'm going to show you some examples of the achievements that we are able to do today, and then paint a picture for you for what the future of neurotechnology may ultimately hold for us. Okay? So, the first person I want to introduce you to is Nathan. He's the one on the right side of the screen. And Nathan is living with paralysis. He was paralyzed in 2004 in an automobile accident. And Nathan was actually a freshman in college. He was studying nanotechnology. When he heard about some of our studies, he said, I want to be a pioneer in that. So he signed up to do one of our studies. And Nathan had that same array, right, that 4x4 millimeter array, placed in his motor cortex, right, the part that is involved in movement. He had another set of arrays placed in his sensory cortex, okay? And you can actually see on the upper right side of the screen there's a little plug that's coming out of his head. That's where those arrays are connected to. And the wires send the signals from his brain actually to that bank of a rack of computers in the middle of the screen, process all.
Dude's got wires hanging on the back of his head. He's like a rat.
They don't eat, don't sleep, they don't feed, they don't see. They're the gums when they moan and squeak. Lick the dirt off a larger one's feet. They don't push, don't crowd, congregate until they're much too loud. Fuck to procreate till they are dead. Drink the blood of this called this bread. They don't scurry with something bigger.
So, why do they always, why is this always seems like they trot out this marketing idea? And believe me, I am not saying there's anything wrong with finding cures for people that have stuff wrong with them. I think that's really great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but what I am saying is whenever they roll out heinous cognitive invading technology, they always throw this thing out there about the guy who's got issues. That he can't walk, he can't see, he can't hear, and this will just make everything better for him. So it puts you in a position when you're on the bullhorns of a dilemma. In other words, you're not going to say, well, Epic Journeyman, you're not for this guy who has issues not to be able to walk or hear or see, are you? I mean, why would you say no to this technology? Because this guy is going to be able to walk when he was. I mean, we have friends that are in wheelchairs, man. Scotty Lopez, Nace, these guys are, broadcasters. These guys are, in chairs. These guys have issues. I mean, wouldn't it be good to use the technology to help them? See what I mean? It puts us on a bullhorn dilemma. We got to say yes to that, right? How do you say no to that?
That's a ploy, right? The whole thing is like, yeah, well, the blind are going to see. The people who can't hear are going to hear. I mean, we know how to do it. I mean, how could you possibly deny this to people, And while you're at it, I mean, you want your kid to have blue eyes? We can do that. I mean, how could you possibly deny that to somebody? Hey, you want them to be able to run a sub 4, 40? We can do that for you. How could you deny somebody that? And that's the trap of CRISPR editing technology and the things that have come on and piggyback onto it. But it's a real dilemma because we can't just ignore the fact. It's like having there's a bunch of kids in the house, high schoolers, and you have like all these bottles of tequila just sitting on the shelf, right? And they're all open, so you won't know if somebody's poured some water unless you go sample everyone, right? How do you keep the kids from go sampling themselves when you're gone? I mean, how are you gonna do it?
Well, believe it or not, man, our buddy Nase is actually in the chat room. As soon as I said that, a minute later, he said it's a double-edged sword. One edge is also very sharp, while the other dull enough to be a threat. So maybe he'll join us because he is in a chair and he is blind, and he actually, as a result of his, well, if he wants to come on and tell you guys about it, he can. Let us know, Nase, and we will definitely bring you in the conversation here on Aftermath FM, Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific. Immediately following Clyde Lewis, you'll find us. I want to remind you, guess what? The $79, I'm pretty sure it's going to be, I don't know how much longer it's going to be going, but it's $79 for the year. And if you sign up, head on over there, and you'll be able to find a bunch of really great content. A place, it's like a social media place behind the wall. Once you get inside there, Clyde Lewis is there doing a Zoom. I think he does a Zoom conference once a month. So there's all kinds of info and research groups, and it's really great, man, to go back there. Unfortunately, in the times we're living in, you can't just have something. You have to have something where it's a product that somebody's paying for, that they can go back there and be free. Unfortunately, so if you got to pay for something, come on over and be a supporter of one of the best networks, I think, around, man. Look around. David Knight, 6 a.m. in the morning. You've got Billy Ray Valentine immediately coming before Clyde Lewis, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Leo Zagami's here. Kev Baker Extra is here. It's just, man, the list goes. John Brisson, Gutchuck. Mr. Gates live from Las Vegas, the Haterazzi. Penelope Nisha, she's on here. There's just so many great people, man, and I don't want to leave anybody out. If I missed you, it's not because it's only because we're only got so much time, and there's so many great broadcasters on here. I could be here all goddamn day. And so there you go. $79 for the year. Come on down, become a supporter. So, guys, we're here, man. So, I want to get some more into the DARPA. Now, see, here's the other thing. When you have this agency, this DARPA agency, and they're out making movies, and they're making videos to explain to the people what they've been doing or whatever. This is going to be a marketing ploy, right? This whole description of this guy and the funny thing is, the guy standing in the picture with the guy who's in the wheelchair is Obama. So Obama's standing there with this guy who's agreed to be, take part in this test. So I'm tell you what I'm going to do. He gets to the end that's where he's going to come to this conclusion. So I'm just going to go ahead and bump this all the way to the end of this discussion because I don't want to go through this whole thing. I want you guys to hear what he says. Here we go.
Much more difficult. It's in that area of memory. Okay, remember, memory is a very tough concept. In this particular case, there's a person that has volunteered for our studies. This person is living with intractable epilepsy, has seizures that are uncontrollable. And part of their therapy is that they come to the clinic and they have sensors placed in and on their brain in order to try to map out where this problem is occurring. And it turns out that some of the places where those sensors are located are in the memory structures of the brain. And we ran a test where we asked the question, could we develop a direct neural interface, stimulate the brain, in order to facilitate memory formation and recall? And this is for declarative memories about facts. So this is how it goes. In this particular example, the person has to recall 12 words. We know how hard it is to do something as mundane as that, right? Think of phone numbers and things like that. In this case, we do it with brain stimulation and without brain stimulation. We're going to sense his cognitive state, and when we detect that memory is low, we stimulate the brain in order to facilitate its ability to do it. So the first example is without stimulation, and let's see how good he actually does. 12 words, no stimulation. So we got through 3 of them, and we've all experienced this. He does the old face palm. Can't get through the rest of them, right? So now we're going to do it with direct brain stimulation.
Okay, so hang on a second. So this patient was given 12 words to learn. Okay. They ask the patient what the 12 words are. The patient can only remember 3 words. Now they're going to use the technology to stimulate the recall or the memory, because as Giordano said earlier, they can monitor this activity in real time. The way he was describing it, it was with nanoparticulate stimulation and communication through wireless technology. But what's being described here is actual sensors that are attached to the patient. But just use your imagination. I don't really think you're going to need cords hanging out of the back of your head. Let's continue. Let's hear what happens when they stimulate the brain, you guys.
Cloud, Zeus, moth, plane, thread, dark, wood, sky. No kidding.
Got all of them.
So their patient got all of them. So let's just say, for example, Epic Journeyman. This is really good for this epilepsy patient, but this would also be good for somebody who was in a room and walked in the room and walked around and looked at everything and looked at the papers on the desk. They looked at, different stuff, what was on the computer screen, this and that. And then they go back to headquarters, and then these guys just download it. They just download the experience. So they remember his memory.
It's training. It's like playing Simon. Remember that game, Simple Simon, I think it was called, where you hit the buttons, lit up illuminated buttons in the 70s machine, the 80s, kind of popular fad. Or learn how to do a Rubik's Cube in so many moves. Or all this is training. It's all training.
Okay,
right?
so listen.
Playing the game concentration, right?
All right?
Yeah.
So here, what I want to put forward here is the concept that what they're doing here is they're making this person recall what happened in this person's brain as a memory. Okay? So in other words, this person learned those 12 words and has the memory inside of this person's brain. But if I know how to monitor memory and I know how to stimulate it and I can see it and I know that it exists, how hard would it be for me to implant a memory in a person? Or how hard would it be for me to copy a person's brain and extract the memory aspect of it and hold it in some sort of a cloud type situation to be downloaded, like we said earlier, with the robot that learns. All robots learn at that point. So let's say you're like a Rockefeller and you have your memories in there and you're in your little skull and you upload it to the cloud. Once it's in the cloud, then it could not Rockefeller's brain be in every single other robot?
Not only that, but like the key, like deciphering, like that guy was able to hear all those words, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right is in, right.
Right.
Like affirmative.
Correcto.
Yeah, but the thing is, so his brain was being scanned that whole time too. Like, so his thoughts of what he was perceiving were being perceived and recorded,
Mm-hmm.
so that the next person who comes along doesn't have to hear it the same way he did, but he could be trained to use his brain to see the same way and eventually get to that same point using that as a method, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so yeah, you're going the right way there, Bob. You're almost there. I need you to maybe put a little more thinking about moving to the left or right when you're thinking that. Maybe it'll go the right way because they know where the coordinates are in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically, eventually, you can hear the same words and decipher the same way he does. Well, that's a person. Now, that same profile, that same edited profile of the algorithm now is what it is of that guy's neural network that shows his signature while he was interpreting those words is in the AI, and the AIs can use it and develop it from there.
Exactly. Because anything that happens in real time is training the AI. If the AI is observing it, then it's being trained by it. Just like, hey, man, are you really a person? But, click on everything that's a bicycle. Click on everything that's a bicycle. So, now the AI is learning what's a bicycle. It doesn't know what a bicycle is until you tell it to the computer. The computer doesn't see the picture on the screen like we do. The computer sees ones and zeros. It's not looking at a picture. We see a picture. It doesn't see a picture. It just sees ones and zeros. That's it. The end. So it needs to see what a pattern looks like that to us represents a picture of a bicycle. So that when it sees that pattern of ones and zeros, it says that's a bicycle. Right? But we had that problem where they showed the AI wolves, okay? And every time the AI saw a wolf, it was in the snow. And so when it saw a dog in the snow, it identified it as a wolf. Because it
had confirmation bias.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to have to go to break. It's the top of the hour. It's Into the Microcosm. It's Aftermath FM. And so on our way to the break, I'm going to play this Metallica song here. Was written by an AI. So I'm going to play Metallica AI for you on the way to the break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some other aspects of this technology. We've been talking a little bit about the negative aspects of it. We really haven't gotten in too far into the negativity of it. But I mean, it's a horror movie if you can conceive what we're saying about it. It's a horror movie. So I don't think we need to paint a negative picture. Let's find out what the technology can do for us in a way, that's beneficial. And maybe in that conversation, we can learn a little bit more about what we ought to look out for as far as what's being developed. It's Aftermath FM. This is Metallica AI. And I got to say, it's probably one of the best Metallica songs in years. It's almost reminiscent of old Metallica. Aftermath FM in stereo.
Beaten down and destroy. That's yours, so never you betray. Hell is the bomb, waits for you. Now I roll the world all alone. Bound by leather steeds they ride. The world and time, dying the one who waits for you, but there's no longer cares. I'm the sun, I'm insane, yes you'll never know. Never me, so let it be, obey your rise, there, deliverance rise, yeah, yo. Seem like hours, killing scores with the flame. Behind the pages, turn the door. Die as you live in vanity. Curses rest on our brains. No, there's a need for feeling in vain. I can't believe I stand alone. Beast under wicked sky.
Take a journey into the real underworld of our governing structures. Everything you wanted to know about power, evil, magic, murder, ritual, and sacrifice, as practiced by the ruling groups on this planet. The Light of Darkness, a warrior's tale for our time, as told by a Navy SEAL, CIA contractor, and initiate of Palo Mayombe, one of the oldest and most precise blood magic systems on the planet. Available exclusively on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Get your copy today.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, right here. That's where you'll find the elusive unicorn known as Into the Microcosm. It's Friday morning on the West Coast.
The other half is the biological knowledge coming from brain science and biology. And once you link that to AI, what you get is the ability to hack humans. And maybe I'll explain what it means, the ability to hack humans, to create an algorithm that understands me better than I understand myself, and can therefore manipulate me, enhance me, or replace me. And this is something that our philosophical baggage and all our belief in, human agency and free will, and the customer is always right, and the voter knows best, this just falls apart once you have this kind of ability.
This is how it works. This program collects data. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing right now, this system is compiling data on you. And not just about where you are and what you are doing, but how you are feeling. Because after all, you cannot truly have an accurate simulation without factoring in real human emotion.
I can see you and hear you. I can sense your environment, and I can respond to your emotions. I guess you could say I'm putting a human face on artificial intelligence.
Right now,
See me change. I'm a changeling. See me change.
Wow, Rockin' Rio, Epic Journeyman, you look amazingly lifelike. You guys look amazingly lifelike in your new digital human world, man. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people may be missing about this. Like the Zuckerberg thing with the metaverse and the meta world and changing the name to meta, the cartoony characters. It's already so far beyond that, right? Like it's already so far beyond that. But it's like, oh no, it's gonna be cool. It's all cartoony, whatever. No. People have no idea. Like the idea is that it's gonna be so ingrained and so merged with regular reality that at a certain point, the processing power, the simulation is going to be so good that you're not going to know the difference. That you could literally die, right, and feel a minor inconvenience. That's the goal.
And think you went to heaven.
Yeah.
And there'd be no way to know if you didn't, because at the point that you come fully immersed in it, and at the point that it becomes sentient of you and your eye movements, your brain waves, what you're thinking, what you're looking at, what to make you see, what you want to see, create what you think on the screen in front of you. Taking it, believe me, now you were mentioning on a show we just did about this new headset, and we were talking about the Megaverse or whatever. And I just want to bring it up for a second. I don't want to get too far into it, but the thing about it is, though, they'll be offering you a piece of equipment that's worth a lot of money. And as a result of you getting that equipment that's worth a lot of money, what they're going to be extracting from you is your brain. They're going to look at your brain wave. I mean, the ability to scrape data is going to reach a level it's never been seen before in the history of the world, wouldn't you say? I mean,
no, I am saying it's 100% true. Like so, the brain-machine interface, brain-computer interface, the name keeps changing, BMI, BCI, the terms keep switching back and forth because they haven't settled on it yet. Just like Mirror World we talk about is the AR world, right? That's going to be enhanced in hyper reality that you're going to view with these headsets. It could be glasses. Apple already has the glasses in. They're not production yet, but they're already in development. They're going to be out next year. They're going to be $3,000. They already know what it's going to be. I mean, so it's a low profile thing. You just wear like regular glasses. It look kind of cool like regular glasses, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to see this whole enhanced version. That's the new internet. The metaverse is the new internet. You're not. We talk about people being on the old slow bum universe doing it, partaking in it. That's what we're on right now. This is going to be the new thing. And if you're not going to want to be in it, well, that's great, but you're not going to be able to partake in it, and everybody else is, and they're going to be so much more advanced than you. Like they're going to have every answer to every question you ever want to know in a second, right? Because they're just thinking about it, because interface with your brain. What I was going to get to was it doesn't have to be an implant. It doesn't have to be Neuralace or those kind of things, right?
No.
A Neuromesh, Neuralink. It's just on your head. It is just reading your brain impulses from there. The thing is, if you want the better, higher resolution, then you get the implant, right? But you can still partake in it with just putting on the glasses on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, at this point, Rock and Rio, we can only imagine what's actually possible, because believe me, they don't want a bunch of, apparatus. The apparatus is a problem, because you got to have, everybody's got to, you got to keep upgrading and all this. Apparatus is a problem. You need to write software that runs over the top of humanity, that makes it possible for you, because they say now in real time they can monitor it, they can capture your memories, they can enhance your ability to remember. I'm saying they could probably put a memory in your head. I mean, what was the movie, the Spotless Mind movie, where they went back and dude got his heart broken in a relationship, so
Beautiful Mind.
Yeah, so he wanted to go back and erase out the part in his life where the woman that broke his heart was in it, and as he was going through the movie, he was going back to these memories that he had, and they were going in and they were erasing out his girlfriend, and she would like disappear out of the movie scene that he was in. The remembering. He's on a train, she's not there. You know what I mean? So,
I haven't seen the movie yet, so let me watch it. But yeah, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
You haven't seen that movie? Are you kidding me?
No, I have. There's a couple of movies that I need to see. I mean, honestly, I need to see that I haven't watched yet. That's one of them. That one, and I need to see what's the one where they have the postcard of the place everybody sees.
Out of all the people in the world,
I know, right?
That movie is a movie that you definitely should watch it right after the show tonight. Anyway.
Well, I mean, even Total Recall, right, with Schwarzenegger,
mm-hmm.
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The dream sequence, When you wake up, are you really dreaming still?
Which is Philip K. Dick's story, which I talked about. We mentioned earlier in the show, which is so important because he was dead on so many of these things. He was way ahead of his time. Who was out there with Winona Ryder and Timothy Leary and their parents at Rainbow Commune in California?
Mm-hmm. Well,
with Huxley, Aldous Huxley, and his wife as well. These people are all connected, you know.
Well, the thing is,
that's not a conspiracy in the slightest.
No,
that's true.
It isn't a conspiracy, but the thing is when you get so spun that you don't know whether you're dreaming or you're waking. And if you played video games enough, you know what I'm saying right now. Like, I don't know if you played Grand Theft Auto, but at one point I like played it so much that I'd be out at a coffee house, you know, sitting at the street level, you know, drinking my coffee. And some dude would drive by on a motorcycle, and I would just think about jumping him and taking his bike like I would in in Grand Theft Auto. You know, how are people going to distinguish once virtual reality becomes really, once the development starts to happen and it starts to move forward exponentially, like we were talking about earlier, with the child, and then with technology, when virtual reality starts to have development, people start putting into it, and all these videos that you can go watch now, like there's videos you can go watch in 4K of people walking around in just about every city on Earth. Any city you ever wanted to walk around in, right now you can go type it in on YouTube, and somebody walked around in that city with a 4K camera. So I'm just saying, once all those videos like that gets uploaded into it, then it'll all be incorporated into our experiences. So
I do the 4K train rides myself through Europe.
Do you? See?
Yeah, they're great, man. You can put them on, you sit back, relax. You feel like you got them on the big screen. You feel like you're riding the train. Great way to fall asleep, take a nap.
That's what I'm saying. And then it's like you get the experience of actually being there. So that's what
have you guys done it's Google Earth VR? Have you tried it yet? It's
No.
Street View in VR. You walk up to people's doorstep in VR. You can walk down the street up to the mailbox in VR. It's freaking fantastic. It's in 3D. I mean, it's really good, man. Like,
I don't have a headset.
Well, see,
so it's not perfect in the sense that you don't have all the frames there, like to walk from point A to point B.
Mhm.
You have it skips a couple frames to get to the mailbox or the driveway or whatever they mapped. But when you're standing there, you can look around 360 degrees, look up at the sky, look down, look at the mailbox, look at the bush next to you, all that stuff, man. It's super intense. And they have a game called Brink right now. It's only like $10. You can go to these national parks all over the world. Adding more parks and places all the time, like Grand Canyon. And you can walk out to the edge, right? You walk, and these are real photorealistic. You walk out to the edge and look over the canyon wall. Get down at the river.
This
it's all
is
like
what I was saying.
lifetime rivers underneath and everything.
This is what I was saying earlier. So listen, back in the olden days, when somebody wanted to go to a canyon, they had to save money for gas. They had to go get in their car, pack a bag, go over there, go through all that, and then have all the experience of all that, and then they went and they look at the canyon, and then they come back home, and then they have a bunch of those experiences and they grow up. But now a kid who's 7 years old can now do that whole journey right there and never leave his house. So what I'm saying is, you're looking at a kid. It looks like a kid, it's still a kid, but it's the ability to take in information and learn, and children, their brains are like sponges. So I mean, when they have the opportunity on the internet to just go run wild, there's no telling what and like we said earlier, with all the information being available out there and us being steered and psychologically put in front of things that customers are paying us to do. Okay, he's on cannabis, all right. I thought he was on Megaphone Man, so I added you on Megaphone Man. But your cannabis resolution, I'll get you there. All right, so what do you guys think? I mean, everything seems to be hinging around social engineering, and I mean, we've talked about people being born after 9/11, not really knowing what it's like to not have their life out there in public. You know, to not have every picture on the internet, to have every, hey, I had lunch over at this hamburger place, I had cheese on it, that kind of thing. There's a couple of 20 years worth of people, I think, that, have grown up in that world, and I think it's not going to be that hard to give up some of the things that people want them to give up, or, let the system take care of it. You know what I mean? No? Okay, here we go. Stand by. Let's get into this here.
Please welcome Peter Diamandis.
Thank you, Ellen. So first of all, good morning, everybody. It's awesome to be back here again. Thank you to Jeff and Elliot and Ellen and the entire Summit community for allowing this conversation. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, and I love this community's sense of action and participation. So I want to talk about the world we're living into, but I want to talk about it from a perspective of a hopeful future. I want to talk about it from a perspective of the empowerment that you have. So I think, and I hope at the end of this you'll agree, we're living during the most extraordinary time ever in human history. And thank you for that, yes. And this is why. It used to be, if you wanted to solve a problem, the best you could do was go and petition the king or the queen or the pharaoh or the overlord of your lands. The best you could do. And as the head of a nation, the best you could do was deploy your troops or change monetary policy. Today, we're living in a day and age where any one of us who truly want to solve a problem can. I want to let that sink in a little bit. We're more empowered as individuals than any time ever in human history. All of us have access to more capital than ever before. I mean, we're living in a time of all-time capital highs in every single sector. We're living in a time where we all have access to more computational power. I mean, literally, quantum computing capabilities on the cloud for free. I mean, how freaky can that be? So do you want to solve the problem? Do you care? Do you have your mind and your heart enabled in such a way that you refuse to give up before the problem is solved? Because don't make some excuse that the money's not there, the technology's not there. It's there. It's do you have the will and the heart and the mind and the perseverance? It might take you a decade, but it's not a matter of it can't be done. So that's the world that we're living in, and I want to give for the next 18 minutes, we can start this clock. I appreciate you guys holding on 50 minutes for me. That's awesome. It means I get a little bit extra.
All right, just hold on. We're not going to listen to 18 minutes. Just stand by.
Some of the technologies to start the conversation, but then we're going to get into a conversation around a little bit around the morals and ethics. All right, so here's another point, that we're living a time where I think none of us truly understand how fast the world is changing. That the rate at which technology is getting faster is itself accelerating. And so this is the world today. Faster, cheaper computers are the oxygen in the room, the foundation that we're building on, and all these other technologies are progressing in speed and capability. They're reducing in price, they're increasing in reach. And it used to be that you could be an expert in any one of these: sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, AR, VR, blockchain. All of these technologies you could build a business on, but now that's not enough. It's the combination of 2, 3, or 4 of these that are changing and building new business models. So I want to hit a few highlights.
I want to just stop it there now, because he just ran through a list of things that are going to be in the future viable businesses, except for those things now individually are not enough, that you have to combine those things. And most people haven't even heard of the first list yet. Most people are not even cognizant of the fact that what could be done with the list of things that he just mentioned right there. You guys, what do you think about that? So, he's saying you're going to have to combine these individual ideas, 3D printing, biotechnology, these things. I don't have the list in front of me. What do you guys think? Are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent. What happened to?
Rio's coming.
Oh, you there?
And there's Epic too.
Okay, good.
We
Now-
both came back at the same time.
Sweet. Now, is Cannabis a resolution here? Naysay, are you here? Because I added you. Now I see 4 people on
yep,
here.
there he
Okay,
is.
Good. All right. We don't hear you right now, though, Naysay. But come.
Bonjour, Anin, hola,
Hey.
gentlemen, the quad, Jimmy, Epic, Rio. Thank you for this opportunity. Real quick, Jimmy.
Yeah.
On a scale 1 to 10, what type of word gymnastics do we play here?
Oh, we don't have to worry about anything we say.
Okay.
Yeah. We are on Aftermath FM, and as far as my channel is concerned, I'm not monetized, so we can do whatever we want.
So I can take my leash off.
Yeah, take your leash off for sure. You can relax.
Nice.
Now,
Thank you.
Now, I just want to mention Naysay is a good friend of the show. We've known each other for many years, and so Naysay, we were talking earlier about this technology, and we're saying, they always trot out people, and they bring these problems to bear, and not that we don't want to solve the problems, because you're in a chair, and you also you can't see. So this technology and the ability to utilize it would be really great for you. And so they put us in a position where we want to help you, but then, like you were saying, there's the other edge of the sword. So could you tell us, how do you feel about it, man? How do you feel about this technology? Do you feel like it's a threat, or are you really waiting and hoping that you'll be able to see through this type of technology again? I think it's going to be possible for you, man.
Well, if you could only see my reality, 2-eye blind, 3rd eye sighted, the powers that should not be will utilize any opportunity to gain more power and gain more control. And so when we say, Nana's going to be safe because now that we have her microchipped in case her dementia flares up and she takes off, everything's going to be good because we'll find Nana. And, Spot ran away and was found within a couple hours because we had the tracking on my smart device. And I talked to my youngest daughter and I said, what would you think about me being RoboCop? Because I think about the Geordie visor to be able to see.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's what I mean.
The carrot. Dangle the carrot.
So what I'm saying is, are you good with it? So if I had the Geordie headset and I could just hand it to you and you could see, you'd be good with that, right?
Yes and no, the full spectrum, because I would be more cool with being placed inside the Faradayed shielded room and like a singer hitting a note, shattering the glass, that they would fine tune into the dis-ease that is encompassing my body. Let me stand in that room or sit in that room or lay in that room under that electromagnetic bombardment and letting it wipe out all disease.
Right. See, that's where I'm at.
I'd be
too.
more cool with that.
Me too. Now, see, I'm of the mind that if we're there, okay, if I'm here where I can give you a headset, I'd rather be to where I could just heal what was the matter with you by you being able to come in contact with some frequency-based technology or some other form of regeneration.
Magic.
Because listen, if we have this brain power that we're talking about tonight, if that brain power exists, then there's got to be, let's just take, for example, the movie The Fifth Element with the chunk. They just got a chunk of DNA in there. And just by that one piece of chunk, they throw it in this box and they just push a button, and the machine then recreates the being that was there in full form.
Big bada boom. Big bada boom.
So do you think somebody was sitting on their back porch looking up at the stars and just thought that machine up in the movie The Fifth Element? Or do you think that was more like an infomercial for people that had that machine saying, hey, Bob, here's our new machine. What do you think? And how many do you want?
Well, as I discussed about the powers that should not be, I also believe that there's some kind of universal law that says I can do whatever I wish to do with Jimmy. And until Jimmy says, no, stop it, I can continue to do it. And so the powers that should not be utilize entertainment to implant through our psychoses, our eyes, our ears, our memories, their agenda. And I think they are literally telling us in little clips, sound bites, throughout entertainment of what's actually happening.
Well, at this point, they're scraping the inside of our skulls and using it against us. I mean, you weren't here earlier, but there was a piece that we played here that they were able to capture memory.
Yes.
And store it. Well, listen, we're coming up at the bottom of the hour break. I want to let everybody know on replay tomorrow, if you're listening today, which is tomorrow, right after David Knight, you're going to be able to find the rest of this show, the other 30 minutes, in podcast format over on Aftermath FM. Just cruise over there. You can find it with commercials. If you want the show commercial-free, you can find it over at Aftermath FM behind the paywall, so you'll have to be a member, but you can find it anywhere you can find podcasts, and you can find us here Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. So with that, everybody, if you're going to leave us on the replay, remember, head on over Aftermath FM. You can find the podcast in full format, or Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean is where we're going on the YouTube. Into the Microcosm, Jimmy Jean Strike Zone. So let's take a listen to this here, Nessie, on the way out to the break.
Of where we are.
I can subscribe.
And then I'm going to sort of, toss up some of the conversation. So robots are coming in fast. This is Atlas. This is from Boston Dynamics. This is owned by Masasan SoftBank. Right. So this is last few months. This is Atlas learning. This is not better mechanics or better motors or better materials. It's machine learning. It's AI being able to allow this robot to do what it needs to. Now, one of the challenges is, will these robots take our jobs? And they may take those jobs that are dirty, that are dull, that are dangerous. But these kinds of robots are also going to allow people to stay in their homes and not go into old nursing homes. People go into old nursing homes because they can't get out of bed or go to the bathroom by themselves or go and make their meals, but can't.
See, there it is again. There it is again. The robots are going to take your jobs, but old people won't have to go into homes. You guys don't want old people going into homes now, do you? It's Aftermath FM. You're on the bullhorns of a dilemma. Stick around. We'll be right back. It's Aftermath FM. In stereo.
On June 1st, 1996, John and Joyce Edmonds purchased a ranch in Rainbow Valley, Arizona. What has ensued for the past 2+ decades defies all accepted understanding of our reality. Portals, aliens, abductions, incursions, and life-threatening confrontations. Stardust Ranch has become one of the most compelling paranormal stories of the last quarter century, studied by multiple agencies, public and private, and featured on countless documentaries. including ghost hunters. Stardust Ranch remains one of the most compelling mysteries of our time. Get your copy of Stardust Ranch, The Incredible True Story, available exclusively on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Broken down, so I walk the line. I drown my wounds and I ain't done. I'm out of money, I'm out of time. I fly low like a broken arrow. And time slows and my vision narrows. I'm out of money, I'm out of time. Sing your hearts out, sing it loud. Make me happy, make me proud. Black holes, solid ground. Black holes, solid ground. 1,000 voices set them free. Because this silence is killing me.
Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, right here, following Clyde Lewis at Ground Zero. It's Aftermath FM. It's in the microcosm. See, it's your granddaddy's late night.
Sing your hearts out, sing it loud. Make me happy, make me proud. Black holes, solid ground. Black holes, solid ground. 1,000 voices set them free. Because your silence is killing me. I'm fighting the fever again.
See those fog lines laid out like landmines. It's hard to relax. A promise broken, the ground breaks open, love falls through the cracks. And I got a few of my own. I got a few of my own fault lines running under my life.
Don't some of these ideas represent the very foundation of what people call quantum realities? I mean, it doesn't exist till you think about it. Now, are we to the point when I get in my VR helmet or when I close my eyes that I can render it and make it so, like a hologram deck in my living room because Zuckerberg's gonna toss me a $2,500 pair of headsets so I can lay up in here and just
For
live.
next to nothing. Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about those headsets, Epic German?
So I'm a VR developer, air quotes developer. It's to support my habit, right? Going back to the DK1. DK1 stands for Development Kit 1 for Oculus in 2013, and so I've had all these headsets along the way.
So 2013. So that's how far back you've been doing it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, because a lot of people don't know the names of those the helmets.
Right. Which what I'm pointing that out.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So and at this point, I own 7. I've had up to 11 at one time. So it's not just a minor thing for me. I'm really involved with it. And I can tell you, like, there's certain things that what do you call it, enthusiasts look for, right? And one of the things we want is not to have our emotions and our stuff tracked, right? And that's what Facebook, before it became Meta, was doing. So they gave you the Oculus, it was still Oculus, not the Oculus Rift, but they changed it to the Quest, right? And the Quest was pretty cool. It's a standalone headset. It's actually really cool. You don't need a computer, right? You have experiences based on what's called a Snapdragon processor. And you can hook it up to a computer still and get all the benefits of being hooked to a computer too if you want to. But you have these standalone experiences. But what it was doing was it was tracking everything you did. Because it's called inside-out tracking, and that means it has cameras that look out and map the environment around you. Well, that environment around you most often is our home, right? So it's often is our home. So it looks at your TV and your couch and your your dining room set and all that stuff. Everything that's in your house. It maps all that stuff and it saves that data. Well, back originally, you didn't have to opt in and have that stuff shared. We kind of all suspected it was doing it anyway. Anytime you went on the internet, but it wasn't a part of the rules or end user license agreement you had to have. But when the Quest 2 came out, which is a much better headset for only $300, it's a headset that should cost you easily $1,500, right? Easily. But they're giving it to you for $299. Well, why? Because it has eye tracking, it has tracking of your environment, it has all these things that if you've ever watched the movie Looker that they use in that movie, that's exactly what it does. It's getting, it's not just the data of, like, imagine you're sitting in front of your computer, if the camera on a computer, which it was doing, a lot of people know that now, I was looking at your expressions and your eye tracking of the things you looked at on the screen at the entire time you're browsing the internet. It can determine things like your sexuality. It can determine things like, your what you show interest in, because your eyes dilate. Like, you find something you find attractive, your eyes dilate when you see them. There's things that tie into your psychology. It's mapping you the entire time. Well, so it's not just your clicks anymore, the things that you're visiting on the internet. It's actually your responses to things. It's this feedback loop that is no longer a loop because it's being harvested, right? And that's what you're giving away when you have a Quest 2. Yeah, I'm not anti-Facebook. I am anti-Facebook, but I'm not anti-Facebook because of that necessarily. I'm anti-Facebook because they're not telling people that's what they're doing, right?
Well, not only that, but I mean, it is literally tapping into your innermost self. So in other words, if you like big butts and you cannot lie, so when they parade some material in front of you and your eye goes to the girl with the big butt, so they know you like big butts, and you cannot lie. You cannot lie to the AI. The AI knows everything about you better than you know yourself. Just like that dude was saying earlier. Forget his name. It's Yuri something. He's an Israeli guy. He's a Devosian. He's somebody that the Davos people go to for his thoughts. And what he says is at some point it will reach a level where the AI will know us better than we know ourselves. And people want to argue with it and say, well, there's things about me that the internet behavior modification complex doesn't know. And I find that really tough to say. That, like, if there was something, like, for example, let's say you like cheesecake, okay? But the whole time you've ever been on the internet, the whole time, You loved and loved cheesecake, and you have a cheesecake fetish, but for whatever reason, you were able to resist ever looking for cheesecake, searching for it, or if a cheesecake even popped up on the screen, you didn't even look at it. You were able to just completely hide the fact that you absolutely adored shoving your face in a nice piece of cheesecake. See, I don't see it's possible to do that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like for the people who are saying, well, no, the Oculus Quest doesn't have eye tracking, for example. Well, yeah, it doesn't have the camera right now. The new ones do. The ones that are coming out, they do. I mean, actually, literal eye tracking. But what they have is they track your head motions where you're looking. So it's the same thing. Like they mapped your environment.
That's
wherever
what
you're
I'm
looking.
saying. And you know what?
So it's doing that.
I just remembered what I was going to point out. Now, when I had my company, I was involved with doing something called perimeter intrusion detection. Okay? So there's a lot of ways that you can tell whether a perimeter has been intruded on or not. So there's the physical presence of a piece of fiber optic cable on the ground or in a fence or on top of a wall, or this is why I'm bringing it up, and this was used in Fallujah, perimeter intrusion detection system that was developed in Fallujah. What it is, it's a camera that spins around, okay? And what it does is it's taking a picture as it's spinning around. And it knows if something is moved in that picture from the last time that it spun around, it knows there's something there. Something's changed. It's looking for the differences. So what I'm saying is when you were saying that about that headset, I'm thinking to myself, well, the whole time, unbeknownst to you, they were scraping the data of you looking around the room of your house. So at some point, when you're in virtual reality, they're going to pipe back that data they scrape right back at you to make you think that you're in your house.
Well, and they know you bought a new TV, and they know you changed your lamps or furniture or whatever. Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing. I mean, people are not appreciating what this is actually doing, right? So you don't want inside-out tracking. Like that's what they want is to get more people involved with inside-out tracking. The base stations for the
What about
valves.
this? What about this, Epic? How about this? The IRS now is monitoring $600 movement in your bank account. Okay, so let's say there was no movement in your bank account, and now that same technology that I just informed you about with the perimeter intrusion detection, it detects a new TV on your wall. It sees a new, nice, shiny new 64-inch or whatever up on the wall. It says it's all of a sudden it flashes a warning and sends a warning back to the IRS saying, hey, where did this TV come from? Was there a transaction in that bank account? And no, there wasn't. And all of a sudden,
bam, right, exactly. So it's not just the 8-inch with the cheesecake. It's the new 52-inch on the TV, viewing wall or whatever it might be. Yeah, no, that that's the thing. It's
or that new
personal,
diamond
too.
ring on your wife's finger, or that Rolex that you're wearing, or that
It
car
identifies
that you're
every
driving.
object. Yes.
Where did it
100%.
come
I
from?
think it was in the.
Go ahead, Naysay. Where did it come from, man? You don't have a
I
job.
think it was in the mid 90s when Gillette or Schick, the razor company,
Yeah.
they got caught because they were putting RFID tags inside of their packaging. And so when a person would go in and buy the packaging, they would use the RFID tag to track them going through the store. And so they were using it for marketing. Why were they stopping in front of this display for 5 seconds longer than the other display? Or why were they, staring at all of these different type of light bulbs? And this is the whole thing of commercialism and marketing, where we're just giving the information or the data to the program.
Yeah,
the
and
AI,
so
the
when
algorithm.
So when you come to Google and you pay them to send people to you, okay, you can be guaranteed. They can guarantee you that you will get customers. Could you imagine being in a selling position like that, to where I could come to you and say, Naysay, listen, man, if you give me that 50 grand, okay, I guarantee you that I will send you $1 million worth of business. Can you imagine that? Because that's possible right now. I guarantee it. Think about it. There's 4 billion people on the internet. 4 billion people. Can you imagine having the power to push people in a direction that were ready to go in that direction? Like, they didn't know about you until Google put you in their face. So now
absolutely.
There you go. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mow over you there.
No, that's fine. But my family here, we're Star Wars buffs. You know, I rebrought it back. And good shout out there on Looker. There, Epic, great movie. But I bought her this little R2D2 sophisticated droid for her, and unbeknownst to me, I did not find out until my daughter was charging it on we call it the activity table.
Mm-hmm.
And she came into the living room and she sat down and she was going to watch something on TV. Next thing you know, the head of the droid turns and faces her, because what's right in the center of the head of the droid? A camera. And then she informed me this, and I said, okay, now squat down and then crawl a little bit to the left or right and then pop up again. And she popped up again, and then sure enough, the head of the droid turned and facial recognized her.
Get out of here.
It had it has facial recognition on it.
See,
and so you think about these new high-tech droids, you know, the droid, if you buy the BB-8 droid too, they can play tag with each other. So they can literally roll around your domicile and they can plot your home.
Well, everything is mapping everything, and everything's being fed back up into the internet, and everything is being done by every single node and input device in the world is training the AI. It's building the sentient world simulation. It's building the mirror world. It's building the second world that when you exist in it, when you step into it, you will be indistinguishable between that and the real world that we're living in. It's going to be more and more like the Matrix, people understanding the movie The Matrix, the original one, to really getting a hold of it, man, to understanding it. Because you're over here in the truth community, you're eating that gray slop, man. You're eating the gray slop, man, because you know what? You're over here in the dark, running around, trying to avoid getting taken out by the Illuminatis or whatever. Meanwhile, homeboy's over there, you know, and he says, forget it, man. I'd rather have a steak. He'd rather go back and be ignorant. He goes, ignorance is bliss. Everybody's, you know, talks about a lot of the other parts of that movie, but that is the most important part of that movie. Ignorance is bliss. Because when you don't know about it, you're just in it. You don't know that you can get out of it. You're just in it.
If they can have our reality be nothing but negativity or dread or darkness, then why would not somebody turn to an augmented AR, VR? Why would they not turn to that to try to bring back the dopamine burst that they can no longer get a fix at because of their status or being liked or shared?
Yeah, and I mean, for you, you're living in a chair, and you don't have the ability to see. And in a little while, a lot of other people, they're going to be living like you wish you weren't living. And everyone's going to go happily into this place where they're going to be sitting there with their eyes closed and their mouth shut, and they're going to have this headset on that's going to take them to another place. It's going to take them to some place they could never, ever go on their own volition.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Exactly.
Social conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
I got to point out, I think we brought up in the show, we didn't get a chance to make the point about, was that the two, we're talking about brain computer interfaces or brain-machine interfaces. And the two companies that are developing it the most are Valve, which makes the Valve Index VR headset, which people will never talk about, right? And the former Facebook at their F8 building, which is Fate, right? F8 building. Which is now Meta, right? So those are the people who are making the brain-machine interfaces. They're the most far along commercially that we know about.
So is there a place inside of Naysay's brain that when his eyes are open, it makes the images appear to him like it is like we see? His eyeballs decode things, and he's able to see that in his brain, in his mind's eye. Because because the thing is, if that is the case, then and signals are capable of being beamed into Naysay's skull, couldn't they actually beam the VR directly into your skull, like right into
the brain machine interface? Exactly right, they can, and that's the point I wanted to make. That's what I was getting to, was that quickly. I think that when we were talking earlier about the Geordie headset for Naysay, that's absolutely a possibility, and there's no reason we can't do that. That is totally outside the boundary that we're talking about, mirror world and these other things. Because when I said last night something that I said was controversial, and it is controversial, that the only way you can defeat what we call the world order, coming new world order, whatever I call it, this overlay of everything, the only way you can defeat that is get rid of the satellites. And it's not really the satellites. What it is networking. As long as you have these abilities that aren't networked, you're not plugged in, you're not jacked in, it's all good. You can have those things that make you see, make you walk, make you do those things, as long as there's not somebody remote controlling you on the other side that's networking and controlling the network, right? The network is what has to go away, not the technology. There's
and
no
the
problem
thing
with having
is
electricity
how
or
would
anything else.
And how would Naysay know if he was really walking? That's the thing. If you're in it, how do you know you're in it?
If you're in it, right? Well, that's the other problem, right? That's why you can't be networked in, right?
The assumption. I go back to Fantastic Voyage, and then I go to the movie Face Off, and then you get into quantifying technology, nanotechnology. And then I think of Morgellons disease, where throughout our lives we've been eating the American diet with its additives and preservatives and pesticides and herbicides, and we're eating enough plastic that you could create a credit card from it. So you throw all of this together, and it's inside our body. And if you remember Morgellons disease, people were getting these ulcerated skin blemishes, and they would have like a silver thread. Well, at the very infancy of nanotechnology, the smallest thing that you could get these things to do were to link in a chain. So then if they inject, total assumptions again, if they inject these particulates into our brain and they say, okay, now go link into a chain beneath or within the synapses gaps within our neurotransmitters and our receivers, next thing you know, they have how many miles of little threads of metal from nanotechnology.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, once they have that whole array within our brains, then they have us go and say, yeah, I'll take a punch in the arm, a shot in the arm. I'll take the next new technological advanced indoctrination. Inoculation.
Hey, Naysay, we're about running out of time, so just hold it right there because we're going to go into overdrive. Can you hang out?
Sure.
Okay, good. Listen. Modern science is based on the principle, quote, give us one free miracle and we'll explain the rest. And that one free miracle is the appearance that of all the matter and energy in the universe and all the laws that govern it from nothing in a single instant. The biggest frontier is consciousness, ladies and gentlemen, and AI and super consciousness and conscious AI is something that's definitely on the horizon.
Is the appearance of all the matter and energy of the universe and all the laws that govern it from nothing in a single instant. But modern science is just now coming around to the conclusions held by yogic science for millennia, to an explanation of our universe that's going to take our understanding to a whole new level. And that is that both the substance and the intention of the universe come from a deeper reality than the material one we normally perceive with our minds and senses. And that reality is consciousness, an all-pervading, blissful awareness inherent in everybody and everything. Just as your own consciousness is the essence of your own mind, cosmic consciousness is the essence of the entire universe. It exists within everything, and everything exists within it. Essentially, everybody and everything is part of and full of consciousness. Imagine that. However, for reasons I won't go into now, we've largely given up on the idea of a higher consciousness in our modern worldview. In the last 100 years or so, modern science has come to a very mechanistic take on reality. What if, though, mind, matter, and space were all full of consciousness? What if the possibility of consciousness as a higher reality were every bit as real as any of our current constructs of reality? And what if it could give us, if only we were open to it, some very real advantages in understanding our world and where we fit into it?
So consciousness is a blissful awareness. And, you know, you can extrapolate that out into your life. And I say consciousness is not just some attainment somewhere up on a mountain that's spiritual. Consciousness is being conscious of everything you do every day. Every way you act, everything word you say, everything is a meditation, and everything is a ritual. You know, it was one of the hardest things in the world to do. This is Into the Microcosm. We're here Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific. Immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. Want to say howdy to TalkStream Live. We're still hanging tough up there, number 5, and we're still alive at number 5. And Clyde Lewis is up there, number 2 there. And, man, so we got 2 of the 5, 6 spaces covered with Aftermath FM. So come back tomorrow night. It's Friday night. It's the fish fry. That's Naysay. Epic Journeyman's here. Rockin' Rio's here. We're going to go into overtime into the microcosm, Jimmy Jean Strike Zone. Stay tuned for great shows coming up here. Aftermath FM. We'll see you tomorrow night. All right, boys. We're clear. Shit, man. Mike, were you there the whole time? I called you before, but I didn't know if you answered, and then the show took off, and I forgot to say anything.
Oh yeah, no, it's all good, dude.
Oh,
I was busy
jeez.
just
I didn't know
around
you were
in the background.
Fuck, dude, I didn't know you were there the whole time. Well, look, we're going into overdrive, and so why don't you jump in here on some of this stuff, man? Because I know you know a lot about gaming and stuff. What I'm gonna do though, I'm gonna play a quick song, and then do you guys want to take a break and then come back and let me go take a break?
Yeah, I didn't take a break.
Okay, take a break real quick. I'll play a couple songs. You guys come back and then let me go make some coffee, eh?
Awesome.
All right, cool. Kick ass. Here we go.
My just slip away without him knowing you go, then we could meet somewhere where we're both are not known. And can you slip away, slip away, slip away, yeah. I need you so.
That's the sound of having a good time. That's a sound of pain. Change, change, change.
We got 35. We got 35 lively folk over here in the Overdrive after party. The after party, man. You guys over there still?
Yeah, well, every after party has to start with ha.
There you go, right? Man. I didn't hear Naysay or Rockin' Rio with their ha or huh. Whoa! There we go. All right, well, the gang's all hear it. I didn't hear Rio, though.
Good God.
There he goes. Was that you, Rio? No, that wasn't Rio. All right, well, listen, I'm beyond be able to detect who's here. So listen, you guys got the shit. You guys got the calm, Naysay and Epic Journeyman. I'm going to step off, give myself something to drink. I will be back momentarily. In the meantime, enjoy and help yourself to everything that you have here available to you. I will be right back. Epic Journeyman, are you there?
I am here.
Excellent.
Hey, so Naysay, what do you think about that idea of a divorce with technology that's not a complete divorce, right? One that keeps everything that we have, like radio and electricity and television, all those things, right? As long as they're on a local level, transmittable over the normal airwaves like we used to have, say, up till the 90s, right? Before the digital takeover. Like basically the analog world, like everything in the analog world stays and the digital goes away, which means there's no internet, right? It means there's no networking. It means there's no, I mean, you can have internet that's broadcast from local nodes, but you don't have it going up and bouncing up to the satellite anymore. As a way to diffuse this ability of artificial intelligence controlled mechanism that can actually hijack and utilize things like weaponized psychographics and social engineering, mimetic engineering, all these things through social media to push and nudge people, right, is a control mechanism while scraping data. In other words, you take that aspect away, and you have all the other technology advances we've had over the last 100 years available to you, to us. You know, we still have solar power, we still have nuclear fusion potential, you have all these things. Just no instantaneous ability to make your most impulsive thought instantly viral online. You take that away, right? Do you think that would work? What do you think?
I think in their simulation, I think it was 5792 TAC Alpha Bravo sub 49 Gamma. I think in that scenario, they did ponder about taking it and shutting it off just with a kill switch to see if that would be beneficial for the leaps and bounds of more power and control. But I don't see that feasibility occurring, you know, maybe by some greater cycle than we know of, and not the cycles of the psychos, you know, like maybe a huge electromagnetic flare-up by the sun causing such a occurrence to happen. Feasible, possible, you know, the full spectrum of it, yes and no. But I think until we collectively as a species understand the detrimental occurrence that is happening from the bombardment of electromagnetic waves, and I speak from my military experience as a radioman in the United States Navy, and I was the antenna PO. And in order for me to go up on the yardarms and check on the status, you know, repair, maintenance of the antennas, we'd have to call up to combat control and to the other outboard and, you know, the other units.
Rotate, radiate, yeah. The
yes.
whole thing goes over the 1MC. Yep. Yeah, I got radiated on the Constellation. I was up there by myself. It was a little stupid military issue. I was in the military. I wasn't in the military at the time. I was working for a contractor to take off the first GPS antenna that was actually field tested. It was on the Constellation based out of San Diego, and I had to climb all the way up at the top of that stupid antenna, right? And you're not supposed to rotate, radiate. The announcement you're exactly talking about right there, right?
Yep.
And not only they rotate and radiate, but they frickin' turn on the engines. I got all smoked out up there. I still succeeded with my corded, 300-foot extension cord by the time we get up there. I don't know if it's that long. It seemed like it, to cut the the angle iron to get that thing off. But yeah, no, it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, we've known the dangers of this kind of radiation for a long time. But I think what I'm getting at is, like, you know how the Amish stopped in the 1600s, basically, their technology, maybe the 1700s, except for a couple exceptions where they let the people go out and have their little excursions out into the real world and then come back. Nowadays, it's kind of a modified Amish. It modified their tactics a little bit. I guess tactics is probably the wrong word. But what Hugo de Guerras was talking about, he came on. We were talking about him before he came on. And if you caught that part of the show, he was saying that it's already here. Like the technology is already so far advanced, it just hasn't caught up with the culture yet. What's going to happen is that the artificial intelligence that's being built is going to become so well defined and so good, and the option is going to be available to people that we either merge with it or you don't. And the people who don't will be the Terrans, and the people who do will be the Artalex or the Cosmists. And this third branch they call the Cosmist, he believed would be people who just go to space and just leave the planet, basically. They'll take their knowledge and just go, which will leave us with the people who are taking this augmentation to fight the people who haven't. And that'll become the main political driving force of what drives the world politic afterward, to where it'll escalate into violence at some point, which is a really negative aspect, but I think he's right on that. And what I would suggest is we could avoid that whole thing by getting rid of the satellites. I mean, literally just the satellites. And on a bigger scale, it's digital versus analog. You get rid of the digital world. Get rid of it completely. You just go back to a completely analog world. And that would have to be like it would be a military operation. Essentially, we're talking about an actual war. Like I'm talking about a hypothetical post-apocalyptic world where the apocalypse isn't actually all that bad. That the guys who fought, what they did was they took out all the satellites. They took out all the satellites. There's no GPS anymore. There's no communication satellites. There's no internet from satellite-based networks at all. There's no networking. The only thing that's left is the technology itself, which you could still have. You could still have the headset we're talking about, Jordy's headset. You could have that. You could still be even augmented at that stage in that sense, right? Where you're getting the benefit of technology to restore the things that make your life quality of life better, right? But you're not networked in. That's the key thing. In other words, the overlord of the AI, which is really what I think we're talking about here, is not plugged in. You're denying, and when we go to a bigger scale, we're denying Satan, right? I mean, if we're talking a religious scale, that's exactly what it is. You're denying the network of the Luciferians from humanity, right? Because in a sense, when I say that, I'm just talking about the digital world. The digital world is ones and zeros, black and white, with nothing in between. And you can make the resolution better to make it seem like analog, but it isn't analog. It's not the voice of God anymore. It's something else. And if you could take that away, if you take it from a religious perspective, I'm talking like a zealot here, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if you can look at it from both sides. Like the people who instigate this war that takes out satellites could be either zealots, religious zealots, or it could just be people who want to make sure they have a chance to fight something that they would not be able to fight otherwise. You have to take that asset away.
There has to be, or definitely can be, something said about the Amish, and I think Weird Al Yankovic did it best in Amish Paradise. But Rio being there in New York, do you think there's people that'd be willing to say, "Hey, I'm done with this city, going to move into the country, going to eat a lot of peaches"? Do you think they're going to be moving in drones out into the country? Not when you have this, that, and the other thing. And, oh, no, there's a challenge with shipping. So if it's hard enough for Sears Roebucks to get the Wells Fargo wagon coming down the street,
Well, the Wells Fargo wagon was a moment of excitement for people, right? They used to look forward to it. I mean, to the point where they made the musicals. It was the Music Man that had that in there, right? The Wells Fargo wagons that come to town. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that the small things that we consider small now meant something, because it took you 3 months to get something that way, right? We don't have to go back necessarily that far back, but if we went back to where it was just like, imagine what it was like back even 1992, let's say, but better. Like the technology is all better, but it's still all analog technology. Your radio's coming over the AM antenna or the FM antenna in your local area. You can't stream something on the internet. You could access, computer processor assisted technology at the library, let's say, or if you have a good computer, you want to go get a disk and download the disk, maybe do it that way, but not have it all the time, like this overlay on the very reality that we're experiencing, because that's what they're shooting for. When I say they, I mean, this is not, I mean, like, it's almost everyone, like everyone in the business and military sector and government sector. This is exactly what they're shooting for, is this overlay over actual reality, this mirror world, this interactive AR, augmented reality, that has mapped every single object in reality, and every object is just a node on the network. So what I'm proposing is, if we got rid of the network but still kept the technology, the world could be a great place. It really could. Like we would have all the benefits, and yeah,
absolutely. And as an enrolled Paleo American of the Anishinaabe people, when you talk about how far do you go back to when it was a harmonious or synchronistic, symbiotic, full encompassing connection to your surroundings, is it attainable? Is it possible? The 6.7 billion years of the earth where civilizations have rose and fell, I believe it's already happened, and it's going to happen again even after we, or collectively they, ruin this civilization. Or is it an outside manipulation, because then if we get beyond the bounds of this planet, then what out there is going to be like, hey, wait a minute. No, no, you're grounded to your solar system. You've been grounded to your planet because your behavior is not meeting the galactic rules and regulations of the higher authority.
I think we're there. The Earth is in quarantine. I firmly believe that. I think that the Van Allen belt is our quarantine chamber, if you will. I'm not saying we can't leave the Earth. I'm just saying that the thing that keeps us bound here is a interstellar quarantine, if you will. We can get by the Van Allen belt, sure, but the thing that's keeping us from doing it as easily as we want to is I always often make the analogy that the flaming sword from the Bible is actually the Van Allen belt, right? To would keep us from turning to Eden.
Yeah, I see it. Well, I mean, because I was raised Christian, but I've embraced my Paleo-American religion, spirituality, and happy new moon. That being said, today we got the new moon. So what a wonderful time to synchronize with the greater cycles and release or relinquish the cycles of the psychos and try to connect, because it's not easy going through this reality of the bombardment with the EMF. When I got out of the military, even when cordless phones were becoming the thing, I'm like, oh, wait, what does this resonate? How many hertz is this going at? And then it's like, why would they create, the powers that should not be, why would they create technology that overlaps the electromagnetic field levels of the human body? So there's conflict in itself with that overlapping of frequency that's going to cause disruption to the optimal performance of what this incredible mechanization of the human body is supposed to do. But then they can keep us sick, and then when we're sick, we go where to get better? We don't go back to the natural world. We go back to, can I get a pill? Can I get a pill? I got to go back. I need a pill. I got tee off in a half an hour.
Yeah. Well, you need that. What do they call that? Adderall for the golf course. Yeah. The thing is, like, there's so many drugs in society today, prescription drugs, that we've talked about a little bit on the show, but I think we should fully do this at some point, where over 60% of the American population is on some kind of prescription drug. Over 60%. That's the majority. It's the majority, yep. Right? And there's so much of that going on that they had to make up a new affliction to name what these effects, these side effects are that people have when they start having these spasms and stuff. They call it tardive dyskinesia. It's something that didn't exist until they introduced all these pharmaceuticals, right? Then they have to make a pharmaceutical to treat the condition the pharmaceuticals created.
During the scenario of Katrina, the biggest civil challenge that arose was because of the people that didn't have adequate storage of medication. And so all of these people that are on these SSRIs, that if you're not, once you miss your dosage of these, 3, 4 days, 5 days, then things start going a little kittywampus. And it's going to be rather interesting. And then you even look at Homeland Security. They say, hey, you should have 6 months of preparatory storage in your home. And who or what doctor is going to give somebody 6 months of their prescription to sit on? So the incredible orchestrated play that we're in, or ride that we're riding, I roll back in awe of its magnificence, but keep all phalanges inside the cart while in emotion.
Animals are great, man. They're the best connection to the earth that we can communicate with. I mean, people sometimes think they communicate with their plants in the garden, and there's some evidence to say that that's true, actually. There's a movie from the 70s called The Secret Life of Plants that Stevie Wonder scored the soundtrack for, right? But I mean, when they did the Kirlian photography and all that stuff, where they show the leaf cut, but then you cut the leaf and it still shows a full leaf on the Polaroid exposure. Awesome stuff that nobody talks about today that really deserves a lot more attention. But I digress. But the thing is, you are in tune with nature at different levels. But the thing is, animals can draw you in. It's like the reason cats and dogs are so popular is because they have a way of reining in your wanderings, right? And grounding you, But just, a cat will do something incredibly stupid that just makes you laugh, and a dog will come up and give you that look. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, all right, okay, I need to calm down. It's just that effect,
I just thought cats and dogs had really good publicists and marketing. That's what I think.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But I agree. I mean, that definite connection of I guess for nature, the go-between, the middleman would be your animals, that bring you there. And that is definitely something that is missing, I believe, from a lot of people's life, is that connection back to Mother Earth, because this technological advancement is more or less mimicking what is naturally there in Mother Earth. And if you see the beautiful dance between the Fibonacci sequence and the golden mean spiral, how they interweave with each other, still heading in the same direction, whether that's spiraling down or spiraling up, depending on the perspective of the observer, we get that incredible choice where attitude is everything, and within love without fear, being able to have the strength to find that attitude through critical thinking, and maybe our actions and our words will be for positivity. But with that almighty dollar, the gangsters, the banksters, they want you to desire it just as much as they do. And so we come around to the same conundrum. I keep thinking of Joe Pesci and JFK when he's like, "You want to know who's in charge?" And he does that great little diatribe about, up is down and down is up, and it's everything in between. And it's an honor to be here on Jimmy Jean, and good to hear your voice again, Epic. Is Rio still there?
No.
Oh,
he's asleep. He's asleep.
And Mike?
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
I know. I've been waiting for
Hello, and
Mike.
hi, Mike. Sorry.
I was over in the chat room. I was waiting for Mike to come in. Go ahead, Mike.
That's the thing. That's the one thing that we've, as a species, have really forgotten about, is our connection to this planet that we're on, and we need that connection just as much as the planet needs that connection. And without the two energies working together, we're never going to advance any further than what we have, other than through technology. And if we can figure out how to learn, or figure out how to meld the technological with the spiritual, I think we could see some really interesting changes and advancements in the human mind and spirit, much more than we could with just the technology and with just the spirituality. We need to be able to meld the two together to
Beast Wars.
Yeah, kind of like Beast Wars, but a little more like organic.
Beast machines.
Yeah, like, man, well, we are pretty much the from what we know of the species in the universe, we are the pinnacle of that organic machine, right? Like the brain capacity that we have, as far as we know, is the most advanced, with a few animals that could be close to us, like the dolphin and ravens and octopi, especially the octopi. Those things are scary crazy. But yeah, like we need to get that connection back to the earth, that get that energy back into a melded form so that we can actually start to heal and move forward a bit. Like this, we're stuck in this stagnant spiral that we just can't get out. We get to that point where we're almost out, but something comes along, just like our current situation that we're in right now, and drags us all back down. And it doesn't help much with the social media, things like that are helping poison everybody's mind. Like going back to those earlier this evening when they were talking about the ARGs, those things are just massive social engineering experiments that are being used on people to basically gather the information that the people that are participating in these ARGs don't realize that they're gathering for these people that have come up, these social engineers that have come up with these little games for people to go out and participate in. Because that's all they are, is giant social engineering experiments. And if you know anything about hacking, that's what hacking is social engineering, more so than cracking the code in a computer. Hackers get your information by asking questions in a chat room and picking out the details that you drop. And from that, they can, if they're good enough, they can find out what your passwords and stuff are just from little things, hints and tips that you drop in the chats.
From like the movie Now You See Me, right? They did that. Yeah, no, that's right. So the thing is, what people generally don't understand, and I mean this in a good way, not in a bad way. They don't understand because they're being people, right? They're not expecting the worst out of everything, but you shouldn't have to expect the worst out of everything. But that data that's out there, if it's not somebody logging it in, the AI is. It is, right? So I mean that it doesn't go away. It does not go away on that side, you know. And so that's the thing. Like, so that's why you have to change those passwords. And every time you got to go sit there and look and identify a crosswalk, it's like the dumbest thing ever. You think the AI at this point doesn't know what a crosswalk looks like, you know? What's it really doing? And you know how many times you get it wrong because you didn't click on the wrong thing. It's just what it's actually doing is seeing how pissed off you get, right?
It's seeing how many more times they can screw with you before you either quit and give up or contact customer support to say, hey, what's going on?
It usually stops short of it going all the way. Sometimes it goes all the way, but most of the time it stops short to where you eventually get it. But it takes you 20 tries instead of one, you know, or not maybe 20. Let's say 5 on average, right? Once it goes that mode, and it is a mode. You can see it's a mode. Like okay, I did it right. Oh, damn it, it didn't work. Okay, one more time. Ah, damn it, right? Well, now it's a damn fire hydrant. Okay, well, bicycles. I can't see all the bicycles that pictures on my phone, right?
Plus, like, for example, like, say there was some task that you have to do in a video game. Like, you say you got to do something, and it takes you a bunch of times to be able to do it. And the AI is watching you the whole time you're doing it, and it goes with you through the learning process and gets to the point where it sees all it sees the pattern that it has to do in order to get to the place. So you teach it. I mean, I'm totally convinced that every single keystroke at this point is feeding input and data to train the AI.
Well, actually, one of the first things that they did use to train AI was people playing video games.
Wow. Well, what do you know about that, man?
Not too much, other than it was just basically there to watch what the players were doing, and just basically logging the patterns of the keystrokes, things like that the players were making, and just learning the patterns. That's all it was like meant to do while it was learning from the gamers. It was just to watch the gamers' patterns, find out what they're doing, sequences that they're doing, things like that. Like, because like some games, like fighting games and stuff, there's complicated button sequences that you got to put in to do certain moves, things like that. Hey, so it was logging those, watching those, and then it could. What they were doing with that was to see if they could train the AI to be like the chat bots, where they could go into an online competitive game, like a fighting game or something, and beat a human player. Kind of like the big blue chess matches that they used to have.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other aspect of that too is it learns exactly everything about you as far as how you're going to react in situations, or
pattern recognition.
Or it also can tell what kind of a person you are by what choices you make in situations. Like,
Especially in role-playing games, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, like say you're playing a Tom Clancy game, and you could just kill a guy, or you could sneak around him and do it without killing him. And so certain people
life choices.
Yeah. So yeah,
or,
right.
Or do that super cool stealth kill that you get the really neat animation for.
Yeah. Or
Splinter Cell.
But see, what happens is it develops a database of people that'll just kill. You see what I mean?
And those who will use the outside the box thinking to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, on a level, that can be used to recruit people for certain things, based on, the AI knows that if somebody came up and offered you X amount of dollars, like it even knows the amount of dollars. If somebody would come up to you and offer you X amount of dollars to do X, you'd do it.
Oh yeah, everybody's got their price. That's the thing, and that's what the AI's out there to learn, right?
Mm-hmm. And it knows you'll do it because it's seen you do it a bunch of times in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say it just occurred to me, but it occurred to me in the context of our conversation that the phone ones, where it's always asking for the stupid things like the crosswalks and the bicycles and the fire hydrants, where it obviously knows the answer and it's not going to help you with the encryption in any way, right? But it pisses you off where it takes you 3 to 5 times. You know what those phones all have? They all have the camera that looks at you at that point. It's testing to see what you look like when you're angry. It's testing to look like when you're frustrated.
Yeah.
It's getting facial recognition for your expressions.
Good one.
And it also picks up through the microphone on your phone your tone of voice, things like that too, so it can
Damn it, yeah.
double check that. Make sure that the angry face that you're making matches the tone of voice that's coming out as well.
Yeah, man.
Well, one thing that I was speculating with the facial recognition, that the geometry around your oogly googlies, from how close your eyes are together to the whole, are they oval, are they round, are they slanted? All of that is as individual as your fingerprint. And so I believe this whole thing about, you need to wear a mask was just building more data and input on the algorithms for that facial recognition. And if you remember in the Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report, how every time they walked into a hallway or into the transit or whatever, they had those things on the ceilings that were tracking everybody's eyeballs. And you would see how they showed the little glint every time it recognized people.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So comes up again, yeah.
Yep. Hey, listen, man.
So that double-edged sword is, whoa.
Yeah. Listen, I got to go because I got to get something to eat. And everybody's got to go. And Epic's tired. I know everybody's tired. Mike, I know you, man, you work. Mike works like crazy, man. So,
it's a long one today.
I know. Well, listen, I got to bone out, man. My gut is just burning like it's on fire. And so I'm gonna go get something to eat. And thanks everybody for hanging out. We had like 45 people in the chat room here just a minute ago. So
thanks everybody.
Yeah, man. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night. We'll have something good for you, I'm sure.
Freaky Friday.
Yeah, man. So yeah, don't forget.
All right, thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, buddy. We'll see you soon, eh?
Lord have mercy. I can't get ahead, no way I try. Everything is out of pocket. Somebody do something. The present situation is abstract. Listen. Listen. I'm working 40 hours. 6 long days, and I'm highly embarrassed every time I get my pay. And they're working everybody, Lord, they're working poor folks to death. And when you pay your rent and your car note, you ain't got a damn thing left. Ain't that a bitch? Yes, it is. Somebody doing something slick. Yeah, they are. It's got me wondering which is which. Might as well go uptown to ask. dig a ditch, ain't that a bitch? Yes, it is. Now, ain't that a bitch? Let me tell you about my qualifications. I program computers. I know accounting and psychology. I took a course in business, and I can speak a little Japanese. Fuck son, got to work 2 years to get 1 week off with pay. And when I'm on my job, I better watch every word I say. Ain't that a bitch? Boy, somebody doing something slick.